Hello everybody and welcome back to another stream here. I want to see what we can get done on another Mierce Miniature. Now, if you're wondering what goes in his right arm, that's what goes in his right arm. And we're gonna we'll either do this as a kind of a gold thing or maybe some a jade type of a deal here, something like that. Now, got a little kind of a, well, I guess dagger for him, maybe sword for a human, because this is actually monstrous infantry sized. So this is actually 28 millimeter scale, just so you know that. So we got some fun stuff going on with his base here. Now, I'll show you some pictures of, you can actually see a couple of reference pictures up there too. But let's go over here to this, and I can get a good idea of what these guys look like. So there's actually two types of these, which is really interesting. We've got basically the female snakes and the male snakes, and you can see they got some pretty nifty weapons going on. Let's go to the next one over here. You can see what the back of the armor looks like. So these have been very fun. Now, basically the way this is supposed to work is that the males not quite so brightly colored, and then you wanted some more dramatic colors on basically the female snakes, so it'd be easier to tell them apart. So that is why the snake's grayish green. This one's going to be more of a sort of a reddish gray right here. Another reason we do that is that it'll stand out pretty well away from the armor over here. Hey there. Well, oh, look at that. See that? Check that out. You get actually a little first thing. And, well, I think, I think I just record as follows because I've got all my alerts and stuff going here. So I'm going to try and boost up the sounds all the way on these things. And just, so the chat now has something. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But at least we know that the chat works at 2:15 in the morning. Now this base, if you're wondering what this was made out of Sculpting clay for the most part. Here, I'm just going to grab myself a piece of Sculpting clay. Oh. Well, hey, oh, look at that. Thanks for the host. Hey, that worked. I am so jazzed about that. So you can see this is a bakeable clay. I have a bunch of videos on this on my YouTube channel that shows what this can do. Again, just a relatively, actually pretty darn inexpensive bakeable clay. And then you just sort of carve it here. These trees or the roots or whatever you want to call those, sort of like an Angkor Wat. That's what this is supposed to be, sort of Angkor Wat vibe. That is with epoxy sculpt, another sculpting medium that I just really love. Oh, Liam paint stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna try and it'll either be on here or a YouTube live tomorrow. Also, probably maybe a YouTube live because I haven't done one of those in a bit. But I thought this would be fun. Trying to do some things that take say 3 plus 4 hours, something like that. Because it seems like this is a better format than the YouTube live. A couple hours, 2.5 tops on YouTube. This seems to let me do some longer stuff, which was kind of the plan from the beginning. So I gotta say, it's some kind of a reddish, grayish red thing going on here. Not so much with the patterns. Oh, a couple of faces over here I didn't notice. And then some rusted armor. Now, I don't know if you got to see the pictures here. I'm going to go back. You can see this is the kind of the vibe we're looking for. Check out that armor, especially on the guy in the center. You can see there's a little bit of rust on that. Of all the snake people that I did, that was my favorite. You can see some of the trees right there. And then we'll see the back of them. You can see, again, a little hints of some rust on there. We're going to go for something like that. Again, muted colors on the so-called male snake men. But thanks again, Liam. I appreciate you stopping in. Oh, paint-wise, we are going to be using more pro acryls here. So we're going acrylics this time. Full all out on the transparents here. I'll show you right there. So you got your transparent black, brown, purple, red, orange, yellow, blue, and green. So then we just got all of the transparents out here. But we also have some of the opaques. I mean, of course, faded ultramarine. When are you not going to actually, it goes on the palette by itself. I cannot control it. It just ends up there. bright pale green. That's sitting over here. There's your faded ultramarine. We got an off-white. Might add some more as time goes on. We have a brown, black, and a dark green. I think it's like black green is what they call it. We got some sponges here. Usual makeup sponges, right? And I've also cut these into some smaller pieces here. Now again, this I have to decide. I was tempted initially to do the green jade thing. That's actually what a lot of the greens and blues out here for. I might still go with that just for fun because I've done this before on some Keltos pieces. Boy, I wish I had just kind of made a picture to put in my gallery like I did with those other snakes. That would have been fun. As far as liquids that you're going to see here, it's the good old-fashioned water. All it is. No mediums, no nothing fancy. And we are going to get into our base here real quick. We're going to take some of this brown here. The primer, as always, the usual Badger Steino Res. Now, I have no idea as far as volume of some things. Now, I noticed this volume works really different than, say, XSplit. And I had it turned down because with XSplit, you just got to have it turned down. Now, some people have said that it sounded kind of quiet. And then I looked at OBS, and it seemed, as I had a little bit of purple into that. See how that just tints that a little bit different right there? Just a little bit different. We're even going to take some of this green here, right? Green and purple together actually make all kinds of very nifty gray. Ah, look at that. See how that? You can see your brown here, then it goes into purple, and now it starts to turn a bit more green. Now, ironically enough, I have to be sure I don't get too crazy with the green, because then otherwise, what's the point of adding foliage, right? I mean, I'm just completely wiping out the whole reason why we're adding all the green foliage. Otherwise, I could just add nothing or whatever. So, but look, you can see, I know it's a little bit dark, but boy, you know I stress a lot with the middle tones and the darks. Do something more than just, oh, it's a red cloak. We shall darken it with darker red. If you were to take something else, maybe even a blue, maybe even a green, some kind of darker blue, darker green, you put that in your reds, you got something more interesting. Just like here, my so-called grays get a little bit more interesting when we throw some purple in there. It's going to become even more, I think, dramatic and visible when I do something like this. Again, makeup sponge here, right? See how much gets removed, but look what's left behind. It's not just a little bit darker, but it also has a little bit of a tint now. So I'm going to use an even bigger sponge here. Oh, by the way, this little snake that you see here, I don't know how many, well, I guess people still work with green stuff to do conversions and other things. I think enough people still do to kind of understand this reference. But we always mix more than we need. No matter how well, I think eventually you get a little bit better. Did I change socks? Oh no, I want to paint like a champion. I'm wearing my musty socks. I'm wearing my exercise socks here. Yeah, see, champions, right there for beef in the hole. Paint like a champion. That is what we are gonna do. Well, that's what we're supposed to do anyway. I'm gonna sneak this in here, grab some of that old stuff. Boom. That's just leftover green stuff. Before it got too unworkable, this is what I do. I got a collection somewhere around here. There's a bunch of little green stuff snakes that basically they're made. Kathy has her own little things that she'll make out of green stuff that's left over. But before it kind of goes bad, she'll sculpt a little something out of it. And since I do so much jungle basing, obviously lizards, snakes, the whole thing, that's why you see these little sneaky snakes around here. Oh, Le Pen, hello, how are you doing? I hope you don't mind me kind of switching from the busts now back to miniatures, but Oh, I actually have a commission thing here. Now it's a little bit on the wetter side, so we're going to turn that so you can see it. But look what happens here. Like I've said before, that when you get the transparent paints and you start to mix those lighter colors in there, boy, you really... Look at how that just tints that. And you can see it's blending together. It's a bit, well, really more like oil, watercolors, I suppose, than oils. But it's kind of the blending that you see. Oh, we have mythical bristles. How are you doing? Yeah. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. I meant to send you a message before I started this. It's been a weird couple of days here. The thing I was telling you about yesterday. Yeah, that. Well, then more weird stuff happened today, and it's been a weird week. That's for sure. Not necessarily all horrible things. It's just been a lot of stuff happening. So I apologize for not sending you the pre-alert there. Although I don't know, I think maybe Twitch is a little bit better about sending alerts now. Let's not offend Faded Ultramarine Blue. And Wicked Elf. How is it go? It is definitely morning. 2:25 in the morning. Maybe. I don't know. The last few days have been so strange. I've kind of lost track of what time it is or even what day it is. I thought actually today was Friday instead of being Saturday morning. All right, I'm going to go back to our greens here. Now, somewhere I hope I've got them in here. Actually, by the way, people are really loving the jungle foliage on all the Warcry pages, especially the Warcry francophone. So in France, they love. I actually had to write a response in French. Thank you, Google Translate. I didn't try to translate vellum plants though. Now Le Pen asks, it's not Warhammer. This is actually from Mierce Miniature. See that little logo in the corner there? You should go look at. Well, it's a horrible website. Miniatures are really cool. Unless they've updated the website like in the last 6-7 months, it's a tough website to get through. But check out their stuff, and actually, I'll go to my Instagram too. You see, it's got, well, actually, I have a link on my homepage or whatever it is for Twitch. You will find some Mierce miniatures in there, more of these snake guys. Actually, my what would you say, my portrait picture, my avatar for Twitch is a Mierce miniature. It's a Mierce dragon. So go check those out because they are they are really, really cool. Now let's start to make ourselves a bit of a reddish color here for this. And again, we want it to be, we don't want that to be too intense. It's almost a bit on the purple side. We're just going to throw this right in here. So much of this is metal. I'm just going to throw this right in here. Sponge again. Let's see. Can I suggest a color for the back banners? Now remember, this is a commission piece, so I have to kind of follow the requirements and instructions of the person that commissioned this. So hopefully, if that meshes, I can. Let's see. Yeah, they are definitely liking the plan. Oh, and thanks for the company as well. Yeah, I can't wait. Actually, if I hadn't already done so much of this unit, I would have, you bet, I would have used the plants on this too. But this unit was started up a while ago when I think even before the vellum plants were in their testing stage. Here we go. Just get all of this stuff subject to modification along the way. I just want to get rid of that primer, as always. And that's what you're looking at there. Your usual Badger Stino Res. I would assume something on the darker side, maybe some kind of a darker either a grayish purple, something like that, because that was, I might still do that. Again, I'd love to do some markings on there, but if I do those, they have to be really subtle. They also seem to have clothes. They don't just have armor, they have clothes. So these are like the most modest snakes ever. They have to be. Now, I guess you can do the bits thing. So, oh, thank you, Mythical Bristol. That's appreciated. Hey, and I actually heard that. Oh, and look at that. Look what greets you. That actually, that's one of my painted Lannister miniatures right there. So I hope that that showed up on screen the way it did for me for everybody else. But thanks so much for the donation. It is appreciated. It definitely helps. Well, now this is, I was just informed earlier today. You know how you've heard me talking about my desire for fluorescent oil paints. I mean, you've heard me talk about it over and over again. Well, earlier today, I was shown a website that has fluorescent oil paints, and we're talking like 8 different ones. Now, they are 15 bucks a tube, and well, those type of donations, like that very kind one from Mythic Bristles right there, Mythical Bristles, that's where that kind of stuff goes, is to seeing, well, can I take those and mix them with my, you've seen these on my previous streams. It's Drax. Yeah, so we're just talking about oil paint. We are not using our oils tonight. We are using Yield Pro Acryls, the acrylics. These are definitely some classy snakes. Well, yeah, I mean, they're just tooling around town. They slide and slither around. That kind of sounds like it should be a saw. Now we're also going to remove a bit here. We still have to. I don't know if Le Pen has to tell me if I have guessed correctly on the color that he was going to do, or he would like to have seen on the back there. All right, we've got that knocked out. I'm going to actually let that settle for a little bit. We will switch over to this thing right here. Oh, what the heck? Let's just start throwing stuff on this. Who the heck cares? I don't care. We're just going to make this real quick, just some green here. Fortunately, I have a little stand for this thing to go into. And I'm actually thinking, instead of doing my usual metals here, maybe make some kind of gold here for your blades. I'm just throwing this on here real quick. I want that all to just sort of mix together. Horrifying people all across the globe. There we go. And we're just going to let that dry. I'm even going to get some of the little touches of yellow in there. And then we'll let that dry. So I'm going to set that off to the side. And we go back here. And we have a new follower. I think, no, that's a sub. That's right. So thanks for the sub. Sorry. I only made those last night. So thank you for the sub, Drax. Yeah, check it out. That's really cool. Thanks for making all the sounds go off, guys, because let's just say that the sounds I was making when I was trying to put those things on here, not necessarily YouTube-friendly metaphors. We'll just call it that. So I took a bunch of different colors there, made myself a bluish gray, and we're going to do our same little trick with the makeup sponges, like you do. And I'm going to change this a little. So I just threw a little bit of the transparent black in there. That changes it up a little bit. So this is that initial horrid phase where everything looks just brutal and nasty. To me, it doesn't... Uh-oh. Beef in the Hole, also a sub. Thank you very much. Now I'm glad I turned up the volume on that because I bet you I wouldn't have heard that. Now, okay, we're getting towards the ground, right? We're talking, this is not sky earth, but this stuff's getting close to the ground. You saw me just sneak in a little bit of brown there. Yeah, that's what I just did. Snuck in some brown. So yes, you can now do the subscribe and the, instead of just following, you can subscribe now because we reached that whole achievement thing of affiliate, right? That's what they call it. Is that what the kids call it nowadays? So just like we did elsewhere, you can see how many of these little sponges I go through, and you see now why I chopped them up a little bit because it makes them easier to handle here. So straight away, big old mess of a glaze, a couple of hits with my sponge. All of a sudden, we're starting to get the hint of shading here, right? So thanks again for all the sub, and let's see. Mythical Bristles will be back. Just gonna be around, silent for a bit. Just want to make sure I'm getting all the way. Yeah, I think we're all the way up there. So much appreciated on the subs, guys. I was trying to think of stuff for, like, for bits and cheers, right? Whatever those are called. Just trying to think what kind of wild and wacky things can we do for that. And actually, so in a second here, I'm just gonna, you know what? I have some other makeup sponges here, some smaller ones right here. So yeah, we can do the big old sponge, or we can also sponge away a little bit more delicately here, as delicate as this stage can possibly be. I'm just gonna let this dry for a second. Aha, look at this. So this is courtesy of Artisan Guild, and who does that look like? Well, you can't really tell because I don't have a face cam, but that would just happen to be me, actually. Yar. And where's my oh yeah, see those right there? Those are those are these. They're the craft brushes. More famously though, so those are these, my green handle craft brushes sitting right there. So I will be painting this, oh, probably on a stream next week, I would say. But maybe every time there's a cheer or something like that, or enough bits show up, then we have him make an appearance or something like that. I don't know, but that could be pretty hilarious, actually. Oh, so it's interesting because I heard it loud and clear. Actually, well, okay, I just heard Gray to Table Studios just followed, I do believe. Yes. So it's good for me, I guess, to hear those sounds because then I can acknowledge when those things happen. Not sure why they aren't. Oh, maybe I'm not sure which of my mics I need going, but hey, at least there's visuals. Believe me, remember all those colorful metaphors I was telling you about? Just getting the visuals led to a lot of voicing of displeasure with certain software and streaming software, and yeah, it was an awful lot of, what do you mean I got to do that too? Why doesn't this work? What do you mean that I have to do that? What do you mean I didn't do that? I thought I did. So there was an awful lot of mayhem, just to say the least. So you can see we're going pretty far along in getting rid of primer, getting that out the door real quick. We're down to just these couple of banners here, and I might do, I'm tempted green, red, green, red, green, red. I'm going to go do this for, actually they're almost like skin, so I'm going to switch. We're going to change this up in midstream. Haha, no pun intended, seriously. Oh, you might need to add the browser source as an audio. Oh, okay. That might be it. Well, that's something I'll try for Well, I don't know if I'll, yeah, let's see, tomorrow if I do a YouTube live, and yes, got the YouTube channel, so there's hundreds and hundreds of videos there. Good grief, I think I have to actually link that to the main page. I've got all the other stuff like Instagram and all that linked, but not the, I don't have the YouTube channel there. So, someone remind me to do that tomorrow. All right. And yes, he's going to be missing his hand for a lot of this, but we'll just keep going along here. Wait till your subs go sky high. I hope so. I hope so. I did not realize. Look at this. Here's an example of how much liquid a big old brush like this holds. So this here, this was filled with water. It's empty now. That's how much water has gone into this. So we'll throw out some more here because we done used it all. We done used all the waters. Now what we're going to do, oh, look at this. We can just play with all this nifty, it's like a watercolor palette now. And the next time it's going to be an oil palette. Yeah, though, thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. Oh, yeah, look at this. See, now I can just sort of play off of what's there. I got my big old bristles working here. It doesn't have to be that hard. Well, I do not read Korean, and I do believe that is Korean, so I do welcome the new follow. I appreciate it. And yes, I know I've mentioned this on my YouTube lives, but at some point I want to have a cheat sheet or something of greetings in various languages. Actually, if anybody in here was there for my New Year's Eve YouTube live session, I think I got some greetings in Mandarin. I think I got some in Greek, and potentially one or two in maybe German or Dutch, I think. Maybe even Dutch. Well, Kathy's the Dutch expert. I mean, she's literally been studying Dutch for how many months now? Pretty much since December. Oh, look at this. This is a neat thing. So see that? Here, I'm gonna hold this closer to the main camera. See that? See what's going on right there? Look at that nifty little spidery stuff going on. That is kind of a neat property of this paint here. Oh, I need some on-screen monos. If it don't got pink, it ain't if it ain't got pink, it ain't metallic. And if a color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. Speaking of which, we're adding some of that right here to get a little bit of reflected light. And that, you got to do this one too, especially for the oil painting stuff. You can't join the voyage of discovery if you never get on the boat. Yeah, you got to do that. And then, of course, ask not what you can do for your oils, but what oils can do for you. Oh, that's what has to maybe show up for bits. That's it. Oh, you get bits for you get things for chapters from the Book of Wappel with enough bits. It literally some kind of little book graphic appears with some nice little calligraphy in there. I cannot confirm nor deny that I am obsessed with calligraphy myself, so who knows? It might actually be hand-done calligraphy. Hey, it's Mr. Snowiak, the island painter. How are you doing? I'm just having some fun here, not just with the Mierce snake guy, but having some fun with some wet into wet. And we've done some of the faded ultramarine there. Maybe we shift it over. Look at this. I have this color here, and I can just, this is how you get that color to go everywhere, because I have the previous colors. Look at this. So big old brush, right? Oh wait, maybe not so huge. So we'll do this. We'll go like that. And then we'll go like that. So two very different brush strokes, one very giant brush. There we go. Actually, no, this is acrylic paint. This is it's pro acryls here. We got some of the, I call them regular paints. And then, of course, we've got some of the transparents. I think the next stream I'll do will be going back to my oils over here. This is why, and I know some people maybe get a little bit mad when I say it. They'll say, so what about those water-soluble oils? And I said, oh man, I've been using those for years. And I said, what do you mean for years? Oh yeah, I've been using them for painting miniatures like 20 years. And they say, but they haven't been around that long. And I say, yeah, they're acrylics. So they don't like it when I say that. Not one bit. But it's kind of true. The reason I use the oils is because I want that extended drying time. Because this is all neat. I'm doing all this wet blending over here. That's all well and good. Unfortunately, this is going to dry. I got a few minutes to work with it. And if I was doing multiple figures, out of luck, baby. I'll just, by the time you get to the next figure, it's already dry. Like down here, a lot of this already dry, so I wouldn't have been able to do any kind of mixing down there anyways. But man, you do the actual oils. Thank you, Armored Wolf, for the donate. It's much appreciated. And speaking of YouTube lives, go back just a week or two ago. Speaking of oil paint, you'll see me painting a piece of leather for a dice bag in oils with those, and it was just the most fun ever. And the dice bag made by Armored Wolf, so go check out the Armored Wolf Etsy page for sure, because I think you've seen, Mr. Snowy, you've seen Kathy's Nurgle dice bag, right, on her stream. Again, that is the Armored Wolf that made that. So it's pure genius. We're actually hoping to do more of the painted bags. I want to do different birds of prey. I definitely want to do tiger, lion, leopard was actually suggested. Dragon. See, just change that a little bit now. It's again, let me do some wet into wet blending. The water soluble oils, I know there's people that are maybe there's some folks, I know they get scared of the oils. They think there's all these hideous solvents in there. Well, they really aren't. Unfortunately, that kind of just gets spread around because the white spirits that I use for the oils, they have no smell at all. There's no intensity to them. We're not using battery acid here. We're just using a little bit of white spirits. And we're also going to get some lighter colors here. Again, I can use filbert or chisel, one or the other. Spacescapes is the other thing because, well, if you check out the blog, which is also linked to my Twitch channel here, look at the 2D art and you'll see some spacescapes there. And I haven't had a chance to really paint spacescapes in a while, and hopefully we're looking to throw that on a dice bag. Now it could be a spacescape maybe accentuated by, I don't know, some Battlefleet Gothic type stuff, an Imperial cruiser, or what were the Grey Knight strike cruisers or something like, where they had a contingent of Grey Knights on them. I think even the Sisters of Battle had a couple of Battlefleet Gothic ships. Now look at this. See how a little bit of that pink and purple gets in there? You're saying, what's the deal with that? I think you can see this here. I'm gonna double down at, yeah, there we go. See, I got some more of the pinkish purple in there. Now watch what happens. Yeah. See how that changes it a little bit? Why am I doing that? Because it's getting awful close to the... Oh, we have a raid. Thank you, Chitin and Tira. So, well, at least I heard that sound. And let's see, what did I... Oh, it's one of the free folk is the graphic for the raiding party. All your biomasses belong to us. That's hilarious. Hey, it's Thunderdome. Oh, thank you for the follow. Linkery. And Yes, and now it's thundered. Well, thanks. Let's see. Was it last night we were hanging out, or was it the night before? We were just kind of hanging out while you were working on your stuff there, which was pretty cool. Because I got to tell you, I never get to see other people paint ever. This is literally the first time doing this Twitch thing. Say the last, I don't know, what, week? If Draxus is still around. These are the first people I've actually had a chance to see paint. I never get to see people paint. Ever. I get to see me paint all the freaking time. So it's pretty cool to see other people paint too. Now, I'm going to go back real quick for the new folks here that haven't had a chance to see this. So we're working on some Mierce Miniature snakes, right? And there you go. This is the different types of snakes that you got going on here. That's a back view. So you can see the male snakes have more armor, females are less. The bases made out of Sculpey with some epoxy sculpt here on the trees or the roots, and actually some leftover green stuff right there. And we are using a big old craft brush right here. You can see we've used our makeup sponges, right? And on the palette here, you've got some of the transparent pro acryls. Pretty much have all the transparents out there. And then we've got some of the regular colors, as I call them. So thank you very much, Chitin. I appreciate that. It's going pretty good. I'm just glad that my alert sounds actually work, because I had no idea. It's like, well, maybe somebody will come in and maybe there'll be some follows or something like that. But it's been nice to see all of the sounds get used. You are the first raiding party that got the sound for me. As Drax says, I will work on getting the browser thing open so that maybe everyone else can hear that sound too. Now, however, the one advantage to just me hearing the sound is that I don't have to talk over it. So if I'm in the middle of explaining something, then you don't have the big, well, those aren't really massive obtrusive sounds. Oh, yeah. And we want to get more appropriate sounds too. Like, I don't know, So Say We All, a host of Battlestar Galactica notification sounds that I thought would be kind of fun. Obviously, for the raid, Cylon Raiders, I mean, come on. It's got to be that. Now, there's other things I can do. So I just slap that on. Yeah, I've got my sponge over here. What if I was to just, I don't know, do this? What if I was to just paint with that sponge? We dispense with the brushes entirely. Let's do some more of that, because it's fun. So, just slap it on with the brush. Remember, this is acrylics and not oils. But we get enough of it into that sponge there, and we start to sponge it around. In some ways, it's almost like you're doing a little bit of airbrush, a little bit of oil, a little of this, a little of that. Let's get some more before we don't want to forget Faded Ultramarine, but we're going to get some of that in here too. Also, I just have to remember, this is not going to be Sky Earth. Not going to be Sky Earth, so not going to be that kind of shiny metal. And I'm going to just scroll down it real quick. Bear with me here. Aha. Boom. So we're not doing the shiny metal like this. Not doing the shiny metal. Oh, I heard you got raided by Yeji and Clint, right? As I should just, again, that is your Sky Earth type stuff right there. Because they said, oh, he's painting Rick and Morty. We gotta raid him. So I was there at that moment. I heard that. So this is the cool thing for me, is actually getting to see other people paint for a change. That is just really nifty. So we've been using the big old brush here, right? Here, let's do some more stuff, maybe with the skin, now that that's had a little chance to dry for a second. So again, we're trying to stick with some relatively duller reds here. And just a touch of that orange to make sure it doesn't get too pink. I'm just going to go right over it. Look at that big old filbert brush. Big, nasty, horrible brush. That, by the way, probably cost 20 cents-ish, maybe. Yeah, that was, oh, what was that? 1230, 1240 or so when that raid happened. Somewhere in there. Now again, I can't be putting all this on here and none of it gets here. And I spy with my little eyes this section right here. And I am just going to go like so. Not here, but here. See how that? It's like I'm reflecting his own, we'll just call it skin tone. Let's grab Mr. Sponge here and see what Mr. Sponge can do. Oh, look what Mr. Sponge does. Mr. Sponge takes that hard edge and makes it go poof. Let's see if Mr. Sponge can do that over here. Yes, he can. Look at that. Again, that whole we were joking around about the we have a follow or we have a subscribe by Lego Brick. It is appreciated. Yeah, so again, a little bit of sponge painting. They rated you about 2 hours ago. Well, thanks again, Lego, for the subscribe. That is appreciated. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Just took some of that pale green, mixing it into basically his skin tone here. And we're still working with this big old brush. Still working with that. Now, you do sacrifice some areas, like here. The leather stuff, okay, it's painting over that. It would be a lot easier to go back in and just do those leather strips later than it is to try and I've seen it. I've seen people literally try to paint around that kind of stuff. Instead, look at this. What are we doing here? We're getting to do some of that wet into wet again. Look at this. Big old brush, working fast, paint's wet. It just, that initial phase just looks like such out of control lunacy that it's tough for people to deal with it. And they just kind of freak out a little bit. I think that's the other reason. Oh, and thanks again, Lego Brick. I appreciate that. Oh my gosh, it's on YouTube. Within a few seconds, people, unless they're, well, loyal Wappelians, of course, they see that god-awful mess starting out and they're gone. Boom, they flee in terror so freaking fast. They're gone. Look at this. See, it can even go now over into the scales here. We're getting all kinds of basically de facto blending. Yes, I gotta paint a you-know-what load of figures all the time. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of them every month. This is the only way I can survive and do that, is big old brushes, working faster. Because years ago, we used to do the black primer thing, or, well, first it was black primer, and then we would shade it lighter and lighter, right? You start with your darkest red, then a lighter red, then a lighter red, until 57 years later, you have finished part of the cloak. That was no bueno for trying to do what we need to do. Then we started doing the white primer thing, and we were doing more of a glazing type approach. Then again, it still was slower. Well, slow for what we needed to do, or what I needed to do. Then, oh gosh, Armored Wolf, when would you say the shaded base coat really came along? Probably about 2010-ish, maybe, with the lizards. Oh, maybe 2009, 2010 with the Lizard Man Army. That changed everything. And this is, if you're wondering what the heck shaded base coat is, that's what this is. Where I just slapped on those horrible, ugly layers of paint, and now we start to build on them. Because remember that horrible thing over here, this thing that goes in his hand? Look what just happened there. When that dried, doesn't this look, I don't want to say the C word, but contrast paint? All I did was I slapped literally green and then some yellow, transparent. It was this and this. These two guys right here, slapped them on here. I just let them do their own, remember? I just slapped it on, let them do their own thing. Look what that did. I can work from this. I can build from this here. And we're going to do that pretty soon. That was just 2 seconds, me literally slapping color on there. But people, they want to have that or exert that control and have that, well, we just call instant gratification. Like instant gratification is not fast enough. After a couple hours of painting, you want to see that Space Marine's face painted beautifully, and that, okay, that's great. The problem is, now you have to paint all that power armor around it. And if that power armor is way darker than his face, or vice versa, just because of the armor, let's say a Black Templar or Imperial Fist, one of those two extremes on the lights of armor, your face is going to look a whole heck of a lot darker or a whole heck of a lot lighter than you thought by virtue of what's around it. I just call it context. It's all about that context. If you watch my YouTube videos, you will hear that word every 2 seconds, constantly, never. Look at this. Look at the state of that brush, just in shreds, and yet, oh, look at how we're having all kinds of fun actually painting with it. Now we're going to go back the other way here. Go back the other way. We're going to grab some of this. I'm actually going to gray it down with some brown. And now we're going to get some of that over here too. I'm just going to quite literally just kind of dust that right in, but it's not a dry brush because, yeah, look at that. It's practically a glaze. It's almost a glaze. Now I'm going to do, aha, not just reflected light on there, and yes, we finger paint here too. We sponge paint, we finger paint, we use horrible, nasty brushes. Essentially, 100% of the things you're told never to do. Oh, well, I wish more people would tell people to do this. So, armor. Something I learned looking at Instagram pics of actual people that wear armor. Now, if this was more of a Skyer thing, it'd be more extreme. But these two surfaces, they got to reflect on each other, believe it or not. It's not enough to just have a dark sitting in there. That's not going to work. And if I need to go a little bit smaller, oh, look, I got the number 8. There's your number 8 round. Craft brush is handy. It's handy. We get some gray in here. Oh, look, I can still do a Filbert type thing. But you see that reflected light starting to work its way in there. Here, let's do a little bit more. A little bit more. Get this sort of centered for you so you can see what is going on there. So again, thinking reflected light, thinking that arm. These two surfaces got to reflect on each other. Just that little tiny bit. How hard was that? It took a couple of seconds. And look what it adds as far as the believability of your reflectivity. How does that sound? Now I'm also going to get a few different colors here in this armor. And I'm also going to, another phrase from the Book of Wappel. Well, basically everything is like chess, but weathering is like chess. You've got to plan moves in advance. So you might see me go lighter or darker with the armor in certain places than maybe might otherwise be called for. Because I'm thinking, all right, like around here, if I go a little bit lighter, any kind of rust stuff that I do there, well, that's going to show up more. But here, if I make this stuff too light, well, any kind of lighter rust, because rust is not just one color, it is many different colors. See, like I can almost, again, not a dry brush, but I can almost make that look a little bit more like hammered steel or steel that's been weathered somewhat, right? Look at that. More reflected light. Because what we want to do is we want to have long lines. They're not, don't think of them as like lines that you would draw with a ruler or something like that. Think of them as rough lines, but basically more of a pattern. See, look at this. This is going to follow here, and it's going to go all the way down. Each of these segments here, it's going to go all the way down. Still going to march down further. We are going to make it a little bit on the darker side. And I'm hoping, yeah, you can see it. You can see it. I'll march all the way down here to these last couple of segments. So again, a line. That's what helps it look like metal. And it's just kind of essential that that happens. And when you watch when you look at these Instagram account, all these pictures of the armor guys, you'll see the forest reflected in their armor. You see themselves reflected in their armor, their clothes reflected in the armor. But you see a lot of these linear things. Now we gotta do this on the other side too. Can't just do it on the one side. So let's flip this over. Let's do that over here too. Let's do that right over here. We're gonna get some stuff on the edge. Get those. And now we're gonna start doing some of that here. Let's see, that's pointed towards the ground, so I'm actually gonna have a lighter ground coat. Look at this. I got all this stuff here. It's all real handy for me. Make sure that's lighter. And see, this brush is also in that same kind of filbert shape, right? Look at this. This is why I don't need the water soluble oils, because we can do a lot of oil painting type things here as long as we use the bigger brush. Lego says the mess is the best part. I just wish that people could, well, they see that what they see is, and what they're told is, everything's got to be super neat, super precise from the very beginning. And I just wish they could be allowed to open up a little bit more. So here, look at what's happening here. So this is a little bit lighter there, but see how this is starting to get lighter? And the reason this is getting lighter is that this particular segment and this one and a little bit of this one, they're pointed up towards the sky. They're getting more light than these guys are. So this is another. People ask, so I don't know what colors to use for my non-metallics. I don't know what colors go where. I say, screw it. You don't have to know. The miniature is going to tell you. Like right here, this is facing towards the sky. A, lighter. B, has to have a little more blue to it. These guys here pointed towards the ground. A, darker. B, something either like this, the color of the floor, or the color of his skin, scales, whatever they are. So we'll just here, let's keep going in. And look at this. If we want a color that's a little more blue, look at that. What's that for? Oh, I'm thinking that's a sky color that maybe goes into this blade that's, oh, I don't know, facing towards the sky. And then it's got to have pink because, I mean, it ain't non-metallic if it ain't got pink. So pink, yes. Blend, check. Boom. Do we really need to fuss and such? Do we really have to? Probably not. Here, let's swing him around this way. I think we're going to go with our lightest point here, like you do. And now what we're doing is basically taking a ivory, sort of off-white here. Now these curved blades, sometimes it can be a little bit wacky to try and figure out just where certain things could go. Sometimes that's where you just screw around and say, you know what, this is just going to go here. The heck with it. I'm just going to put this here. You can see we got our pinks and purples. Now let's go back, because you can't really see too much. Oh, let's see if I've got, where is my sneak? Oh, here we go. Look, we'll make this bigger. Boom. Like, see those pinks and greens down there? Here, we'll even move them over this way. So you can see you got, look at, there's green reflected on the metal there, but you can see that there's pinks, greens, grays, all kinds of stuff on that sword. Well, or it's more like a batleth. Which the Klingons among us, I guess, would say kapla. Here, let's just, I'm going to take that sneak picture there, and I'm just going to lock that in place so all those lines go away. You'll also notice that I haven't used anything resembling, well, white yet. And there's a really important reason for that. You wanna leave that white kind of in your quiver of arrows for as long as possible. You really do. Now, sky, right? See how much grayer all this is? More muted. You can see how intense that blue is. Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to probably in the next 10-15 minutes, I'm going to start doing some of my black and white stuff that I like to do. And I'll just show you. And well, I'll start now so you can kind of see where we were. See, look at this. Look at this. It gets not just brighter, but a little more of that sky blue works its way. Who would have thought sky blue for the parts of the armor that face the sky? And yes, we shall do more of our lovely finger painting. So we'll show you this. Take a look at that. I'm going to go to my camera controls and we're going to go zoink. We made it black and white. Oh, unlimited blame is here to sneak. So look at, again, we have shading already starting to be built up here within the first, and we've only been playing with this thing for an hour. All right, now let's grab his weapon here. Look at that. You already have some hints of shading, but now watch what happens when we bring the color back, like so. Look at all those really fun colors there. And again, we'll play with that too. But right now, we're just going to mess around some more here with our sky colors right here. So the value, what's value? It's nothing more than how light or dark something is. That's all it is. Nothing fancy. However, it is a little bit more towards the sky blue side of things. We're doing that down here. We're doing that over here. Remember those linear things we were talking about? Well, we're going to do some of that over here. It helps to sort of magnify your reflected light a little bit. Now let's go back to our central part of his armor. Again, I'm trying to keep this as gray as possible. Yeah, did you see the weapon on the guy that's my reference picture over there? That's some crazy weaponry these guys have. And I'll show you that photo if you haven't seen it yet. And you can see I'm kind of scumbling here a little bit. Oh, this is another thing I talk about all the time, is I see people like this with a death grip on the brush. Well, how am I going to get those general brush strokes with this? I'm about to snap this thing in half. Keep your hands away from the metal part. It's called the ferrule. Almost like you're using chopsticks, right? And if you're saying, why are you telling me a whole new way of using the brush? I get told all the time, Jim, hold your chopsticks like you hold your brushes. When we're at the Korean barbecue and the guy who never ever used chopsticks in his life is trying to figure out how to use them, they say, hold them like your brush, like this. Caress the brush. I was once caught holding the brush like this to paint with. Oh, and why? Because it's a much more gentle brush stroke. I mean, seriously, my hands are here. We're doing this. We are painting. Yes, we are. We're just kind of scumbling that very lightly. Softer brush stroke. Because I don't have this. How am I going to get a soft brush stroke with this? I'm just going to stab it to death. That's no good. It is amazingly elaborate. And there's one guy, actually I think it's on my Instagram account, he had this big old scroll on him. Yeah, big old scroll. So I was painting all kinds of crazy little glyphs on that. This is kind of the neat thing about Mierce Miniatures, is that they have this monstrous infantry. They also have smaller snake dudes that are more, well, I just call them human-sized, for lack of a better term. And then they've got some really big honkin' snakes, like bigger than these dudes. I mean, like the base is the size of a DVD. I kid you not. And I painted a whole bunch of Mierce Miniatures. I didn't realize how many that I'd painted. Good grief, if I painted a bunch of these things. And there's a whole bunch more that just showed up. So yeah, you'll be seeing more Mierce miniatures, that's for sure. So again, going back with some off-white over here. An entire mini painted from the very end. That is that going to be another thing for enough cheers, and I have to hold the brush by the end. It takes X amount of cheers for me to paint this way right here. Yeah, let's work a little bit here. Let's get some of that there. And yes, that is me holding the brush by the end. Talked about those vertical things, right? We need to go vertical right here. Again, going to get a little bit of blue into this because it's up towards the sky. Now, not as much, like I said, not as much as if it were, say, sky earth, but we're doing some. Gonna get rid of some of that extra paint here. Now, under here we already have in place, because of the, remember those initial glazes that we did? Well, we already have some nifty reflected color in place. We're going to do some more. We're going to double down on that. And see, we got another line that's formed right here. It's sort of a line of reflected light. That's his, basically his scale color that's now reflecting onto the metal surface. I'm going to do some more of that here, some more of that here. And I think we need some more of that here. Right there. We need some of that. Can you see? I know it's a little bit dark, but we're also going to toss some of that back here too. Just, well, cause. Just cause. I'm even going to get me some of this brown in here. Now, if that's supposed to be some kind of, I don't know, maybe it is skin, maybe it's not. Let's just play around, see what we get. Here's that transparent brown. And we'll just throw this over a few sections of it, so make it look like it's banners made out of a few different pieces of skin here, because why not? And see, we've got our other color. Look at that, we can wet blend right in here. Sorry, that started to walk down off the, or slither down off of the camera window there. Let's go with a bit of green in this flesh tone here. And we'll hit this banner. So it looks gray. This is the other thing I'm always talking about. The color might look a certain way on the palette, but depending on that context word that I keep talking about all the time, totally different. Like here, it looks so green. We're going to walk this up here, and it doesn't really look green. It looks just kind of grayish. There's a hint of green. This is why I just, don't even get me started on the, God knows how much it costs, the $50 set of 10 gray paints. Don't even mention those. Nope, sorry to raid and run. Got to do the daddy thing. 2-month-old is hangry. The hangry ain't the good thing. But thanks again for the raid. I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll catch you next time around. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's just for now. I'm just going to throw, since these are the most stylish and modest snakes, like in the history of snakes, we'll just throw some kind of green in there. But we can change the timbre of that a little bit. So now if I go with this, that's going to be more of a bluish green. Let's see if we can make this a warmer green. What's the deal with warmer green? It's green that's got more yellow than blue. That's all it is. Pretty darn simple. So that's a bit on the warmer side. Throw that in here. I can also do some more glazing back in there. Make it darker if I want. I think that's the other deal with this style of painting, or whatever you want to get, this approach, because it's so much more open. If you want to make changes on something, well, I've spent an hour doing this. That's it. It's a grand total of an hour, sort of. I mean, And I've been showing you pictures and doing other things. So technically less than an hour of actual painting time. And this thing was nothing but primer. We've got all kinds of nifty non-metallic going on. But we need to reflect. We have this sleeve here. We're going to reflect some of that green. Right there, just a couple brush strokes. This is where I'm telling you, the miniature will let you know what metal colors got to go where on your figure. You do not have to guess, really. It'll tell you. You just got to listen to it. Ooh, there's a t-shirt worthy phrase that I will, of course, forget by the time this is over. But something like, you don't have to just let the miniature tell you where the metals go. Something like, we got to do something like that. Don't guess where the metal colors go. The miniature will tell you. You don't have to guess. Don't have to guess. As we start to maybe think about some lighter skin tone. So here it was more of a purplish, lighter tone on the skin. I'm gonna maybe chalk in some lighter areas here on the scales. Oh, how's about there too? How's about some over here? Now that we've messed around with this, let's say we want to do something with these straps, or at least get them to be not the same purple color as the skin. That's just the, was it black brown, something like that. You could do the same thing, just sort of mixing the transparent brown with the black, get a similar thing. Let's start to think about these dudes right here. Speaking of that grayish skin color, I'm going to need to do that on those boys. They're looking a little worse for wear, hanging there off of his armor. So we'll just, we'll get some skin tone maybe on these boys. Oh look, kind of grayish dead skin tone over here. Just taking some of that transparent brown. And let's just start hitting these guys real quick just to make a notation. Because, well, we don't want to keep thinking they're part of the metal. We want them to be something else. Where's the other two? Here we go. This one guy looks particularly sad right here. He looks really bummed to just be a decoration there on this snake dude. Now, actually, when you see the rust, it's going to be mostly the transparent brown, this brown, and actually some of the yellow. So before that gets too, there we go. I don't want it to be too rust colored. Wanted to redden up that particular leather color, and now we'll actually make it almost a little bit more towards the, say, the gold here. Yeah, a bit more of this. So I do appreciate, again, all of the follows and subscriptions. Those are very much appreciated. Oh, what the heck. Let's get some of this on the base, too. What do we got to lose? Because that's not a bad wood color. Mr. Snake, I like to just kind of go back and forth between coral snakes and the diamondback variety. Oh, what the heck. I'm going to go maybe, let's see what we can do here with a little snake. First, I'm going to get some lighter color on the stone, if possible, around him. Do some of that. Let's not forget our faded ultramarine here, which almost turns it a bit towards the green. There we go. And you can see I'm kind of stippling that too, using my finger to blend. Let's do some of that over here. And we've always got another color handy to do a bit of quickie wet blend. Quick little wet blend there. Because I was thinking coral snake, but there would be all these really bright reds and everything else, and it's like, Nah, no, that would just maybe be a bit too much there. So let's just do a quick little pattern on him here, and we'll just develop this. Yeah, we're going to do the dark there. Now we'll get our other brush and we'll do some of the lighter stuff afterwards here. Need to start glazing in some darks. Gonna take some of this green here, some of that brown. Where are we at? Let that go right down into there. Now, if I was doing the oils, it would be more of that sort of pin wash or that panel line wash that I talk about all the time. I'm going to use my hand to wipe some of that away. Let's do some of that again over here on this arm. It already kind of looks dark to you guys. Actually, I can make my camera a little bit lighter because the primer's all gone. So let's do that. I'm just going to bring a little brightness back in here. Not that much. Ooh, let's do this again. Zoink. So you can see we've got more shading here. Let's turn him around. See more stuff develop. Again, when we take away all the colors, so see here, you can see that linear highlight that goes down. But when we bring the color back, you should see some purple show up in. Oh yeah. So you can see the purple that begins to show up there. That is the all-important mid-tone. Poor mid-tone. He never gets credit for nothing. He does all the work, never gets any of the attention. So sad. It really is very, very sad. Let's do a little bit more. Make our skin tones, our dead skin tones, a little lighter, shall we? Just add some more light here to these. Since these guys have kind of, I'll just say they've been hanging here a while, there won't be any sort of blood effects on them or anything like that. It's always fun to do that. Again, too, when things are, well, commissioned things, you have to stick with what's been sort of dictated and don't really get to do too much in the way of blood effects on these. So, as much as I love to do it, and my most recent YouTube video actually really dives into the whole blood effects thing. So again, you can check it out there. You can subscribe to that too if you want to. Then you'll get notifications when I do my live sessions. Usually, YouTube live sessions are at about this time. Well, for me, I guess you would say morning, since it's 3:26 in the morning here. I'm just gonna already start to think about these guys. I'm gonna use my faded ultramarine just because, see how that brush has itself a nice little tip on there, but yet it's got a ton of paint on it. This is another reason why things go faster, because I'm not every 2 seconds having to go back to that palette and get more paint. I can just keep going longer and longer because I don't have to go back to that palette. Pretty much paint all of these little rivets or studs or whatever you want to call them with just that one dose of the paint. Actually, that is metal there. Speaking of metal, we got to hit these things. So I'm going to go back to the off-white, which you can see how yellow that is. That is pretty darn yellow, actually. Now, we've got some stuff that's facing the sky here. So let's do that. Let's do that. You can see this is, if you're talking about value, if, say, your lightest light is a 1, your darkest dark is a 10, we're in the 4-ish range now, maybe 3-ish, something like that. Potentially, maybe a 3, as I just make that a little bit lighter. So we'll center this up for you. Hopefully you can see what's going on. And again, this armor, I have to actually have these little stipple lines in here because I don't know if the texture of it shows up enough, but it is really beat up. Another reason why we're not making this super shiny. Now, over here, a whole lot of nothing going on there. We got to get something, and we're going to make it maybe a little bit more attune towards what's on the ground. There we go. We're going to make some more basically very dim reflections right here. So I'm telling you, you don't have to know what colors go where. The figure's going to let you know. The figure will most definitely tell you. And now let's start to just sneak in some of our pattern here. And there's a couple of different things that you got to do. First, you have to just establish, okay, what size did you want this to be? Not even worry about color or anything like that yet. It's when you got it's this position right here. See where they're coiling around? That can drive you nuts trying to do the patterns, which is why I'm just kind of sketching that in right now. Just sketching that in. And I'm going to put my darker colors inside those later on, but for now, just wanted to, while I had the stuff in the brush, just wanted to use it. Here, let's get a little bit of a separation between these. Not really steps so much, and again, that is Sculpey clay, which I will bring out here again in a second. Where are you? Here's a chunk of Sculpey. So this is, again, a bakeable clay. You can see this is a little bit thicker than that. It's about twice the thickness of this. And this white Sculpey, this is a plain white Sculpey. It's really easy to bake it and break it and carve it and do all kinds of fun stuff with it. There's other types of Sculpey, and I've used these in my other basing videos. So this is the gray extra firm using the Green Stuff World texture rollers. Same principle as that other Sculpey, except this now has a pattern on it. And again, tons and tons of videos showing all that stuff on the YouTube channel. I'll see if I can do some basing videos here for you guys. It's a little bit tougher to follow than, say, the painting is. So I don't know how practical it is for me to be making bases, because I have to really mess with the lights, and I can't have all my supplies in one place. Okay, reflections. So I got this big old band of dark right here, but oh, look at this. Here's this arm sitting right there. Guess what? That arm has to be reflected right here. It has to be reflected there. I got no choice. Gotta be. Well, if I want to do something darker, I'll grab some darker. Boom, right in there. So, and that's still wet, so I can blend that together. So see, now we've reflected this arm onto his neck armor, I guess, if you want to call it that. Oh, Mr. Snowiak enjoyed an old vid about the basing snow with the Vallejo oxide paste. Oh my gosh, yeah. That's in the Wayback Machine. Believe it or not, I was just using the oxide paste today, making some bases. I was using well, there's so many different types, I guess, of the oxide paste, if we want to call it that. So many different types. But yeah, I used the oxide, and then we painted the snow, right? I think I actually did I paint it with weathering powders? I swear that's what I must have done. I painted the snow with weathering powders, with the white and blue, was it the Secret Weapon weathering powders? I must have done that. Speaking of, well, white and blue, we took some of the transparent blue, some of the off-white, and now we're going to really start to see what we can do here as far as maybe our lightest lights go. And I'm starting to think about horizon lines. Again, nowhere near as intense as the horizon lines of those halberdiers that you saw. Nowhere near as bright as those. I'll bring those back up again in a second so you can see what I mean. But we still want to have a bit of intensity to this, and you notice we haven't gone to say something like the bright titanium white. We've been kind of staying away from that. All right, this shoulder's got to be lighter here. I'm going to go back to some of that blue. Again, see, holding the brush. I'm just going to use these 2 fingers. My thumb is not on the brush. I am shunning the opposable thumb. There. It helps me just to very delicately drop in these different colors, real gentle like. Nice. Again, no thumb on the brush. Thumb-free painting. I guess Charles Darwin is kind of not happy about that sort of, I don't know, shunning evolution right there. But sometimes evolution goes in the other direction. I'm de-evolving painting one live session at a time. The devolution of painting. Good grief, someone's going to name this channel that. The painting devolution. I'd prefer painting revolution, but I'll go with devolution as well. I'll take it. Oh, and keeping white for last. It's you keep the best for last. Well, you keep your most dramatic for last. That's for sure. And once again, using the dreaded contrast or context word, we really need that context. So here, now I can start maybe playing around with the face here, doing some stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe some purple, which is going to be darkened with a bit of green. Like so. I'll start to do some stuff on his skin tones here. Just some simple old glazes, nothing fancy. I'm actually going to pour myself out some new water here. Like so. Again, I don't use the mediums. I used to. Mr. Snowiak probably remembers when I used to use, oh gosh, what was that? The Reaper Flow Improver? Probably it was, I'm going to guess. Yeah, something like that. And now we're going to introduce a bit of red into that. Here we go. And just sort of changing my glaze color a little bit here as I go along. Change the color of the tongue here. Might make that actually more. I've been going with I think the red tongue and interior of the face on the guys. Oh, okay, maybe I do something like this. This is an accident. Wasn't expecting to do something like this, but maybe a pattern, something like, oh, that's subtle. Especially if I start doing some of this. There we go. Quite literally, just like we did with the sponges, we're sort of sponging that up. So see how we've got a little bit of a pattern starts to emerge. Let's see if we can do some more of that down here as well. And look at this. I use the side of the brush. Because all of a sudden, if I use the side of the brush, look at how big it becomes here. Let's get enough paint in there for you to actually see what's going on with that. So this brush can be that, or it can be that. These cheap, nasty brushes, well, oh, and by the way, in the last 3 days, this brush has been used with oil paints. It's been cleaned with white spirits and rubbing alcohol. It's been painted with for several hours on previous streams. Just watch them. I think the Origins bust, that was painted almost, and the black, not the Black Orc, the Big Child Creatives Pirate bust. So yeah, this guy here was painted with it. This was a previous stream from Storm Sunder. This guy was painted with it. Another previous Twitch stream. So yeah, this brush has seen a lot of action. It's a grizzled veteran. And yet he says he's like honey badger. He don't care. Yeah, let's get a little bit darker right there, just to carry that basically a little bit of a pattern where his eye is, and it gets a little more subtle as you go down the rest of the snake's body here. But it's there. It's sort of there, just an indication of it. Sometimes less can be more, and sometimes more can be a whole lot less. Speaking of that red here, let's go with some of the, yeah, this is the transparent red. Oh yeah, the Pro Acryls, they all have the little agitator inside, which is handy. And oh, Genuine Vision is in the house. Oh, and Plums says this is the only time a week I get to watch your stream. So this, let's see, it's 3:30-ish in the morning here. So this is hopefully this is a friendly time for you to be watching some streams. This is the most likely time for me to be streaming. Just a variety of reasons. So as Genuine Vision and Mr. Snowiak know that Kathy's got the day shift, and I have quite literally the night shift, because if tomorrow were a Friday or a weekday, around about 12 hours from now, Kathy would be streaming her More Than Dice live stream. So I am the denizen of the night, basically. Kind of always been that way, so it works out well. Oh, let's see. Thunderdomes, a Lazy Bones, ahaha. He's up 4 hours late. Oh, I've been up for at least an hour. So, well, let's see. In Germany and Denmark, it's 10:40 in the morning, and I think in the UK it would be 9:40-ish in the morning. I'm just guessing. That's me just guessing. Look at this. Just gonna take some more of that pinkish color. It's all still nice and wet. This is why people ask about water-soluble oils. I say, I got tons of them. I got acrylics. I got water-soluble oils too. How about oils be oils and acrylics be acrylics? I'm going to add a little bit more there. Boom. There was a time, not maybe that long ago, where that tongue would have been painted just one layer after another, hoping that maybe I'm blending it well, whatever. Here I just say, yeah, I'll just let it blend itself. I'm just going to throw some wet paint on top of wet paint and see what the heck happens. Because, well, you just let it do what it's going to do. Now at this point, I'm going to try and throw some of the oxidization, some of the weathering on there. Now again, I'm going to look at some of my pictures here. You can see on his shoulder there, you look at his shoulder, you can see there's a little bit of oxidization there. You can see on his back armor there's a little bit of the oxidization happening. Kind of harkens back, and there are people here who just might remember the old days of confrontation and the Ophidians. Who remembers the Ophidians? Those were really nifty, and they had a lot of armor like that. Even a lot of the other confrontation figures painted with that sort of very subtle rust in the armor. So we're starting to make ourselves a little bit of a rust color here. And as we add a little bit of purple to it, see, it gets a little bit away from the orangey and a little bit more towards the red. Get a little more of the transparent brown. I'm just going to move my water out of the way here, so I got a little more palette space. So I'm making me a few rust colors here. And let's just have at it. Now I've got some sponges here. Before I do that, let me cut up some sponges. So I'm just going to slice a few of these so I've got them. And these are just prime areas for some rust. So let's do that. Oh, Plums says, one problem I seem to have when painting is I have a tendency to overblend everything. Yeah, that kind of, in some ways, that falls under the think long, think wrong. You outthink yourself. You kind of question. You say, "Oh, that can't be right. That was my first instinct. How can my first instinct possibly be right?" What is it? The simplest answer has to be the right one. Sometimes the simplest color is the right one, which, man, maybe I should have a t-shirt made out of that too. So what we're doing here, we're not doing the chipping thing, but I'll take this here sponge, Mr. Sponge, and we're going to go like that. So you can see that that's just doing its own little watercolory type thing. Now I do have, a different type of sponge here, kind of an eyeliner sponge. And what that does, it really lets me pull away some of that paint. That whole less is more thing, it even applies to, it's 9:40 a.m. in Ireland. Well, if you could see my phone, you would see that it has, well, in a day when sports, a previous old day when sports happened, and I needed to keep track of my Aussie rules football, I had to know what was going on in Melbourne. So I had all these different times on my phone. I've got London, Melbourne on my phone. As I just do some more of this again, just letting that do some of its own thing. I'm just gonna push that around. Hey, get out of my. But that sponge is so eager to get to some soaking up of rust. Here, I'll just take away some of that extra. So now we got a whole bunch of different colors going on here with this armor. It looked so much simpler when we first started, but remember I had to figure out, okay, remember I was talking about the darker rust is going to go here, and then maybe the lighter rust colors in the shadow, so that's what we're doing. And now we start to think about, well, around these, what are they, the rivets and stuff. Let's see if we can't make this rust a wee bit lighter. Let's just do that here. Let's just do some of that right in here and here. So see that? See, we're getting kind of the lighter rust color in amongst all of the darker rust cones. I suppose there is such a thing. But hey, it's almost 4 in the morning here, so I get to do word salad. That's official dispensation for word salad, which that's actually making me hungry. So remember how we had just kind of the pure or bluish grays. Now we've got this little bit of rust going on here, and I can always go back over that again with some of my lighter colors if I so choose. It's always there as an option. I am going to throw out a little more transparent brown though, and I'm just going to throw it right here. Oh, give me a little more of that. Now, for the ancient showbacks, the ancient veterans, they'll recognize me using this the way I would use the Reaper Clear and Liner paints. The transparent brown, think of that as more of the brown liner paint. This red here, think of it as clear red. The clear purple, basically. Because not everybody can get the Reaper paints. Well, in Europe, obviously that's difficult. If not, at least it's expensive. That's like the best case scenario, is that it's just expensive, but actually able to get them can even be a problem. So that's why I started using some other stuff. That's why I started using the contrast paints. I basically looked for contrast paints that looked to be very similar to the Reaper Clear and Liner paints. And basically kind of like substituted those. I used the same basic methods. I just substituted something different, and I just used the contrast paints. Now here's some of that lighter rust color. Boy, I'm going to get just a hint of opaque. Look at that. Look at that little tiny touch of the opaque color. Now let's let these blend together here. There we go. I might even let a little more yellow get into that. There we go. Yep. So see how the rust starts to change here a little bit. Now I'm going to go back to our darker rust tones here. Ah, this sangre is raid. We're having a raid. I just heard the trumpet. The Free Foca raiding. So thanks again. Oh, and we've got Pacino and Level. Oh, thank you for the follow, Level. That is much appreciated. And we have Todd Play, Jazz Cats, the Problem Skater. That's a pretty cool name right there. Oh, thank you for the follow, Jazz Cats. That is appreciated. And Hinkster, I will hopefully have said that somewhat correctly. We are actually doing some rust here. Thank you for the follow, Beverly Hills Ninja. Yeah, let's do some more of our rust here. So what we're working on actually is a Mierce Miniatures Snake Man. And he's gonna be joining his buddies like these guys. So you can see what some of the other finished ones look like. Let's check out the back of them here. So you can see we're painting all those different armor plates. We haven't painted any of the lightest stuff yet. We're starting to work in with the rust. I'm actually going to drop my brightness down a bit here. Oh, Logan. Well, thank you very much. Oh, we have 2 Logans. Oh, no. We've got Logan. So, and, well, thank you very much. Now, we're going to do a little something here we've been doing this whole episode. Zoink. So we just turned this black and white. The whole idea is, so in this armor here, you lose all of the blues and the reds and everything, but you still have some shape, right? You still have shape here. You have your lights and darks, and here's actually his staff. So here's his staff. Oh, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Now we're going to bring the color back and watch what happens to this. Yeah, there's a little bit of color there, but what you saw with some of the shading, all that was about 3 seconds of glazing. And we took this transparent green, transparent yellow, boom, glaze. That's all it was. So I really do, Mierce Miniatures is kind of just a closet favorite of mine, I guess, because of all these crazy critters that they've got like this. And some of these guys, like I said, can be huge. Believe it or not, my Twitch avatar, I think you would call it that, is actually, it's a giant Mierce dragon. And that little tiny thing that you see for my avatar, that thing, the base of it is the size of a DVD. So now see, we're starting to bring back some of our blue. What does that do? It makes our rust color show up some more. Makes it show up some more. And actually, you can go back and watch this from the beginning. This is what I painted with for about the first half hour or so. This big old giant craft brush. Then we went to the smaller craft brush, which, by the way, is about 35-ish cents, depending on sales tax. Are any of us really okay? Polymer clay. So, oh, I thought you were asking about the base, which is actually made out of Sculpting clay, which is... I'm just trying to read the chat right here. So, oh, somebody's been told to go to bed. Man, why go to bed? It's only 3:52 in the morning. Because, yes, that's what time it is here. It is 3:52 in the a.m. So now that I've got my rust colorants, I can go back over the top of it. And as I do that, it kind of sets it back a little bit. Because really, rust, how does it get to be rusted? It's because the water sort of filters in and gets down into the crevices. There is such thing as surface rust, obviously, but it kind of gives your rust a little bit of a 3D look to it when it's almost, I want to say, pushed to the background. Not exactly the most precise term in the world, but close enough. Now we're going to get some more of our, again, these are the transparent paints here from Pro Acryl. We're going to get that out on our palette right here. I might even get some more of my transparent orange. So again, from Pro Acryl, get these from the Creature Caster website. I'm going to throw him over there, like so. We're going to mix ourselves up another bit of a rust wash. We're going to take some of the transparent purple to darken that down. Just using water here. There's no mediums or anything like that. We're going to shove some of this right into here, like you do. You can use a variety of things. I got my sponge here. I can sponge up some of the extra and push it around. I can start to quite literally paint with my sponge here. We did that on the other side. We're going to do that here. So we're just kind of, we got this paint on the sponge. Why not use some of it? I'm going to use some of it right over here. Again, it's there. Why not use it? I realize that for some folks seeing this for the first time, this is really wild and crazy. I just wish you could have been here before when we were doing some real crazy stuff. Because as messy as this phase might look, the beginning phase is pure mayhem by comparison. It looks like uncontrolled chaos when it's mostly controlled chaos-ish, sort of. Not doing stop motion with these things. No, I can. Ooh, that's the other thing we were thinking about with the raids, was having miniatures, well, fight each other. Not raids, bits. That's it. Enough bits and cheers. The miniatures gotta, like, fight each other. They have the miniature from the last stream has to fight the miniature from this stream. How does that sound? There. I did enjoy having that little dark stripe go there, so we'll do some more of that. We'll also go back down to our base after we get some more of our glazes in here and some more of our darker green. So I'm going to steal some of that brown over there because, well, apparently these are like the most modest snakes in the world because they wear clothes and they wear armor. Either that or they've just been referred to as classy. Here we go. A little more of our lighter shading here. Going with the green mixed with the pale green. Lighten this up, and now that red, it's really more of a purple red, but it gets more of a reddish look to it because we've added some green. It's the opposite. It's all about that context that we keep talking about all the time. Let's get some yellow in there, warm that up too. His arm is over here, and we're going to be getting to that in a little bit. I had to keep that separate because trying to fit that on camera with the rest of them, not very easy. Would have been very difficult. Now we're going to continue going with our green here, lightening that up. Because we've built up our shadows now. We did that darker glaze earlier. How's about some more shading? A little reflected light here again. Always got to have that reflected light. And now it's an even different color. The metals, the miniature will tell you what color goes where on your metals. And as always, saving those really bright highlight colors. We're hanging on to those. We're not going to use those anytime soon or too soon. Now we'll get a little bit lighter here, and now that skin color that was kind of looking almost light not that long ago, just by virtue of that, it just gets a whole lot darker. Let's start to do something on his eyes here. Maybe we even break out a smaller brush. I'll just do that right here real quick. Mostly because I just want to see what kind of color they should be. Kind of going with an orange here. There we are. And all of a sudden, those darks get much darker. You must have dark if you want to have light, and kind of vice versa. I know I've been saying this a lot in some of the recent streams, where if you keep going lighter and lighter and you just don't seem to be getting much in the way of results, go darker. Just go a little bit darker and you'll be surprised at what you find. Now, let's go with that. There's that purple. Right, we're going to take some of that pale green, mix it in with the purple. We're going to go back into the skin here and create some different, not just dark. We're going to make it sort of more of a mid-tone by comparison, but now also, see, it gives it a whole different color in there. It's a whole different color. Let's do that on this side too. Yeah. And see here, even on his skin tone. So it's looking a little less simple now, instead of just basically a lighter version of the same one. Now, here we go. I'll just get a little bit more of this purple in here. Let's get some more of our purple in here, just some more reflections. Now, I want to get some more of this lighter. So I'm going to take that pale green again. We'll make it even lighter here. There. Just make his face a little bit more interesting. Obviously, we talk about center of interest, right? Always around the face. So I'm even going to get some of that into his tongue there. That was about a bit more. And a little bit lighter here. So now getting some more separation between the interior of his mouth and these exterior scales. It's also pretty darn similar to what we had down there on his chest. Now let's get on the other side here. Because we did it on that side, let's do it over here. Can you see it? Yep. And let's get on the bottom side of his mouth here as well. Now the newer Mierce miniatures, they're kind of dramatically different from these original sculpts, because they're not only they're digital sculpted, but the printing and casting on them is really different. Well, vastly improved, we'll call it that. Because sometimes, as much as you loved the Mierce miniatures, and as far as what the final sculpts looked like, they were really tough to work with as far as getting those things assembled, because the casting was not so clean. Whatever they're doing now, the resin is a way better quality, like a lot better. I'm shocked. And these are kind of their newest releases. I'm sort of hoping that they go back to all the old sculpts and either redo them digitally, because I think they have a whole bunch of lizard men now, and I think they're going to go through the same process. Yeah, let's keep going with our lights here. Just going to build this up to almost the pale green. It's going to be kind of similar in a way to the lighter lights on the metal, but just I'm not going to carry that way back here because then the pattern's just going to be too noticeable. And the requirement was that the so-called male ones here would be way more subdued as far as their skin tones went. That's maybe about as light as I will go on these scales here. Maybe give those just a touch of highlight. Because, the scales are, they're supposed to be sort of shiny. And not all snake scales are just automatically shiny. But definitely that, oh gosh, have a little bit of a sheen to them, I guess. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. I think I might even, right here on his neck, let just a couple of those get lighter. We will reflect some of that onto his armor too. Even though it is sort of weathered and rusted, it could still be maybe a little less tarnished. Oh, hey, Copy Fiber. Appreciate the follow. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you're kind of new to this here, this is my typical shaded base coat approach that then kind of evolves as it goes along. And we start out with big, gigantic brushes like this and just big, huge glazes and everything else. And then we refine. It's just a constant series of refinements. Now, I'm going to take some of this green here, some of the purple. See what I can do with his eyes here. So just turn this upside down. Let's see if we can do the classic sort of snake eye there where it gets a little bit thicker towards it. There we go. A little bit of dark there. See if we can do the other side now. I don't even know. Yeah, you might be blocked a little bit by the sword, dagger, whatever that is. But in any case, now he has some eyes. Let's hit some darks here. And you can spend as much time as you want to working on this, refining things. Let's get maybe a couple of highlights off the armor here. I don't want to highlight all of these rivets or studs because, well, we're supposed to have the whole rusted, beat up armor thing going on. So we can only do so many of these before, well, we kind of start to lose the whole rusted armor effect. And we're also doing a little bit of that stippling because we're trying to get that sort of hammered look to the armor. And at no point have I actually thrown a pure white out here. There is none of the, and I will eventually, there'll be some of that bright titanium white. Let's do some stuff on his sword blade here now. Because we played with this in the beginning and then we sort of went away from it. So let's go back to that. Here's some of our sky blue again. Start to get that a little bit even lighter. Work that into this part of the sword here. Again, trying to negotiate it can be a little weird sometimes when you get these exotically shaped sword blades. Let's get this a little darker just to make this, the differential between these, a little more dramatic. There we go. That's it. I might even make that a little bit darker, so I'm going to see if I can find some of my transparent black again. I'm going to throw that up in the corner over here like you do. Get that into the mix. Now we've got ourselves nice dark that we can use in a few places here. Gonna get this centered so you can see it. There we go. Then I have to start thinking about these. There's all of these chips taken out of the sword blade. How big or how small do we want those to be? So maybe this one's bigger. I mean, it's just really chipped up. So maybe here we do some more of our, maybe we throw some rust on this sword too. So I am going to get some more of my water here. Just looking for some fresh water, that's all. There. Let's do some more of our rusty glazes on this, maybe. And I think I've got that where you can see it. There we go. Now just let that do its thing. Maybe even play with some more of the rust here on the blade. Still, I know we mentioned the confrontation and the Rackham stuff earlier. This is a really fun thing that they used to do with sword blades. It just put a little bit of this hint of the rust and the oxidization there. Just added so much. Here's some more. Underside of that. And because we're doing this mostly with transparent paints, well, that's why we're getting that. It's sort of drying, that little bit of transparent dryness. So see, now we've got something where the blade doesn't necessarily look like it is freshly minted, I guess is the phrase we'll use. But now, speaking of more rust, we need some on these pieces. We got all everywhere else, but not here. So let's add some over here too. Again, just taking some. This is just water. It's not any kind of medium, no flow improver or anything like that. It's stuff I used to use back in the day. Way back in the day. There. So I got some of the transparent paint. And then if I want the rest to be a lighter color, then I can start to mix in some of the just the regular colors. And here I can even see wipe away some of that paint. Or I can say, you know, I'm going to take some of my steel color, actually even mix it with some of the rust color here. Here, let's mix a little more. And then right in there, just mix those two together. And Numbskull asks if you have any rotting flesh of a lich. I think I've probably got some YouTube videos with more undead type skin tones. Now also I've got way more GW undead figures that I'm going to be doing. Oh, and I've got some Reaper figures too that are basically kind of undead like that. They would have more of a lich vampire type skin tone. But yeah, you can also check out the YouTube channel. I'm just James Wappel on YouTube. Nothing fancy or different about the name or anything like that. Oh, we have to do a little bit of that reflecting here of the armor again. But there will definitely be more of that. Actually, I've got some 3D printed stuff that's kind of an undead flavor as well. So definitely, actually, I'm just glad you mentioned that. That's something that would be fun to do just on a live stream. So I'll try and see if I can find a figure that sort of suits that. Oh, hey, Bush to Pyro, how's it going? Engineered to draw. Yeah, this is. I might actually be doing a YouTube live well, it would be later today. In fact, I don't know, it might be 12. It might be 12 hours from now. Oh, thanks, Dilettantsic. Thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. And I also apologize for butchering names. So here, we're going to do a little bit of that stippling again. Hold the brush real gentle, like so. Oh, thank you, Numbskull. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Oh, here's a figure that I'm going to be doing in a couple of days. Actually, this is another one of those 3D printed ones I was telling you about. Actually, I just primed this slate blue. I didn't get to do the rest of the priming, but I just added some trees. I actually have pictures of this, of the basing process, so I can show you that during the thing. But I thought this would be a fun thing to paint in oils, so you'll get to see once again my homemade oil paints, which I did, I think, on one of the first streams. So, well, today is Saturday, so maybe Saturday night into Sunday or Sunday into Monday, I will be doing another live stream, but with oils with that troll that you saw there. Now, granted, he's not GW, but I need trolls for one of my Lord of the Rings armies, and I only got one troll. I need plural trolls. Oh, thanks, Lego Brick. Appreciate it. That's going to be very fun. It's from Artisan Guild. And if you're looking at some of the other stuff I've painted of theirs, oh, wait a minute. Well, this was a vampire lord, but that's kind of lichy, sort of. I mean, liches are kind of vampire lords. So this, and object source lighting, of course, because object source lighting, you gotta have it. Now, Bush to Pyros is gonna have a go at making those oils soon. You got the materials laying around, but it sure as heck is simple enough. So here's another one. And actually, let me set this aside. This is what I'm talking about, the color temperature thing. So look over here on the wing. So you see the highlights, that has that orange red, but as you get into the shadows, you're into purple, right? Now what happens when we go to our color and go zoink? All you see now is light and dark. The purple in the shadows is gone. Here, let's go this way. You have lights and darks, but there's no difference in the red. So this just looks like lighter than this. When we bring that color back, like so, come on. You can see we got the blue in here. This is more of a warmer red. It's not just lighter, it's also a more purely saturated red. Look at this actually has a combination of tree bark and slate rocks. This color that's here makes this look more red, even though it's darn near purple, because this is actually a greenish, kind of a cyan color right here. So in here you can see we did some of that same rusting. Now this was a YouTube live session that I did recently. Again, you've got see how warm the red is right there on that leg. Same thing as here, but then you start getting into some purples over here. So you're going to see a bunch of these artisan design figures because, well, I like them a lot. I'm going to give me something to drink here. 1 second. I just don't want to be doing that right in your ear. But oh yeah, that wasn't it these guys, right? One of the first Twitch sessions I did was Riders of Rohan. We did these in oils. Ah, that was so much fun. And yes, I need me a lot more Riders of Rohan. I still have to make my Royal Guard conversions, which means, well, head crests and really freaking long cloaks, like insanely long cloaks. Because, well, you know, it's Rohan. I gotta have me some Rohan. So we're gonna do some more stippling here. Because again, we got this armor that's kind of it's like it's been bashed in with a hammer like 1,000 times. So we'll give it a little bit of texture, because why not? It's this balance between the rust and the not rust. Just trying to seek the equilibrium between those two. Not going to fool around too much with the banners here. I just want to make sure we got time to get to some of the key stuff. I also want to be able to get to the staff, at least the rudimentary part of the staff. And we need some lights here along. Look at it. See how this is a broken line? It's not a one unbroken line. We got to get something over here too. But again, it's broken. It's not a solid line. We got some eyes to get on there. We also have some skin tone to try and put on here. So let's see what we get with this. Let's put this up there. Well, you know me, I love my object source lighting. I love me some object source lighting. Now, this was a fun little thing here. This is a very recent YouTube Live. Where are you? There you are. So we've got a combination of object source lighting and TMM. That is not color shift paints. That is actually this. Where did you go? Right here, this metallic medium mixed with all the colors that you see out here on the palette. Same stuff, but look at how that kind of shifts to the blue, to the purple. That was all just painted in. So these are the kind of, I try to show as many different things as I can instead of, oh look, here is the 10th video on how to paint a red space marine. Oh look, here's a slightly less red space marine. I'm trying to give you as many different things. I've got Sisters of Battle that I'm doing. Now some of these are Patreon videos that I'm talking about. And you can see the Patreon address over there too. That's the crazy, that's where it really gets wild. Because if you do the Army Painter Pledge level, you get buried in like 400 plus hours of tutorials. Not joking, because I'm on Army Painting Series 17, and there's 5 episodes each, and each episode is 2.5 hours long. So I am no math expert. I'll just say it's a lot. That's not counting all the Dark Sword episodes. It's not counting all the specialty ones with all my basing stuff that I do. Now let's get this a little bit lighter here. You know what? Let's do that. We got some of that sitting right over here. Let's pop some of that right onto his arm right there. Have that run down his arm here a bit more. It is really handy though that there's all of these cut marks and just so much destroyed on this armor. Lets you just do so much more. So many more interesting things. Let's see, what was the other thing? Oh, a dull Amaroth Knight and straight up shiny. Aha. Poof. We'll compare. So here you've got that super highly reflective armor, right? I'm going to actually tone down my saturation just a bit here. There we go. So here we have a lot of different colors working, but now we've got that rust in there too, right? You're always trying to seek a balance of, like here in the face. You know, there was nothing going on here, and all we did, we added a little bit of that purple, which is more like a bluish purple, as opposed to all the reddish stuff that we added back here. And that alone changed it so much. Now I'm going to try and get this a little bit lighter. We haven't messed with this in a while. So I'm just going to play around with this a bit. Catch a few lighter colors here on the some of his scales here like you do. Yeah. I'm just trying to bring some of what's here down here, especially since we want the light to really focus on that area. Let's go back to some more of our regular purple here, because I think we need some right here. There we go. And over here. This is the reason why I advocate the phrase think global, work local. So we're working on one small part of it, but we still got to think about this whole thing, the entirety of this piece. Because if you get yourself locked into one area, you can find yourself in a little bit of trouble, because now you've developed one area a lot, and everything around it has nothing. No shading, no point of reference, nothing. Now, we talked about those darker lines, the stripe. We're going to do that here. We're setting up a chain of darks. Now, if this was going to be the highly reflected stuff, these two would be actually right next to each other. But you see how I left a little bit of a gap there? That's intentional. because if I wanted to do this, now I'm going to go a little bit lighter with this color next to it here, but only just a bit. And again, we're not having the darkest dark right next to the lightest light. Oh, thanks, your Uber MS. Thanks for the follow. It's appreciated. Now let's get some along the edges here. Oh, hey, Art of Mike Disney. Thank you for the subscription. How are you doing today? Now, did you guys didn't do Pictionary on Thursday, did you? Or no, did you? No, wait a minute. Pfft, I don't think you guys did your Pictionary on Thursday. Because I don't remember Kathy listening to it. I know sometimes, well, no, you guys did the D&D thing last week. That was your first session with those guys, I think, wasn't it? Oh, you're doing well? Don't win the next time will be okay. Yeah, I know Kathy loves that. Well, wasn't it the first time she was watching that she guessed what the word was before the person started drawing? And then you had to come up with a new rule. Oh, Taryn is having some major computer. Oof. That is the evil word. Computer, well, any kind of computer thing is evil. That is the thing that we all dread. And you just never know when it's going to happen. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was yours. Because that had to be like her very first one that she watched or something like that. And there basically was the Kathy rule or something like that, where you're not allowed to guess before the person starts drawing. I guess what made me think of it was there's a commercial that's playing now, and people are playing Pictionary, but it's a sloth that's drawing, and throughout the entire commercial, it manages about half of a line, and that's it. Here, we're gonna get some more, not just reflections here, but we're also doing some of that texture. Now, I think I'm going to go back to the other ones again real quick. And you'll see that there wasn't quite so much texture on the other guy that was painted. That's the way the armor was. I'm going to go a little bit lighter here. Just on these last couple of panels. So not on these because, well, there's no reason for a light to be hitting that, but down here, there is a reason for a light to be hitting that. So, there we go. And now we're gonna get this edge going here. So I think, yeah, see that? It's a combination of all the purples that we built in here. There's some of our rust over here, and all the stuff that we've built in. Oh yeah, Terran's team didn't like it. I can imagine. Now, to see how that armor has a little less of the texture. It was just a smoother armor. There's an awful lot of belt buckles on him. Holy smokes, was there a lot of belt buckles? See that on the back, it was even there, it was a little bit smoother. But you can see on his shoulder there, see how his face color reflects on the armor. And we've done that with this guy too. I am going to just sneak in some bright highlights here though, because I can. Focusing right here, so this gives me again that sort of reflected light look going on. How's about some more highlights right along here, along this ridgeline of his hand? Now I'm going to use my finger. You see, we've been doing some finger painting. Just a bit. Just a little bit of finger painting. Now I'm going to go back to my... Yes, every once in a while, every so often, I do use a smaller brush. Sometimes I allow myself to use one. Now let's see if we can't do some edges along this sword blade here. Maybe even work on some of these chips going on, or these, yeah, give that a little bit of dimension there. Can't just be the dark line. Maybe I'm going to go back into some lighter purple here. There we go. I'm going to go back into some of my, basically my sky color here, because we got the rust thrown into here. But I don't want it to completely kill what's going on with the sword blade here, so let's do some more. Some more lights here. And there's the thumb palette. We've gone beyond thumb palette. We're going practically into whole arm palette at this point. It's out of control. Oh, Numbskull asks, do you pre-conceptualize sketches or artwork before you paint a mini or an army? It kind of depends on the project. There are, like my Tomb King's army, and you can check that out on the blog. That's if you go to the Twitch channel, the homepage there's a link to my blog. So you can check out the Lizard Man army, the Tomb King's army. There are literally, my Tomb King's army alone, there's something like 120 posts just on the Tomb Kings. My Lizard Man army, same way. My 40k armies, like my Sisters and my Dark Eldar, you can see where I had a story behind it, and I would do color test figures. Now, I don't know how easy it is for me to find it, but I will try to find it somewhere. Here we go. So sometimes I'll do something like this. This is a color test figure for my Sisters of Battle army. So the basing, I know I want to do that. And I know that I want to get some freehand like that. And I know I want the red hair, the blue woad on the face. I want the gold armor. But I did this one figure to see, well, do I really like those colors? Because, hey, I'm going to have to do them a bunch of times. Sometimes the army just happens. There's not a lot of any kind of pre-planning or anything like that in advance. And then sometimes there's a little bit more. Oh yeah, that was, I really loved that. I just absolutely loved that. My Lizard Man, that just totally happened on its own. That was very much an organic sort of thing. With the Tomb Kings, it started out with a certain type of, there was a theme that I wanted. It was basically, I saw a documentary on the Silver Pharaoh, and that's when I came up with the idea for the Zinch tainted Tomb Kings. So everything had to fit that story. Is the taint of Zinch. So that's why I was using all the fluorescent paints on it. All the wacky, crazy stuff. So yeah, I've got the, what are they? The Osiarchs, right? So I am going to be doing some more stuff with those guys, trying to basically bring my Tomb King's army color scheme to the Osiarchs. There's some of the other undead armies too. There's one that I almost want to make them look like undead Bretonnians, because I never got to do that army because, well, the Bretonnians kind of got wiped out before I could actually make my Bretonnians army. So I was going to do it. Basically, there's that idea that pops into my head. Sometimes the idea is way more developed even before I start painting the figures. Sometimes it gets developed as the figures get painted. Well, like the Tomb Kings, when I started doing some test games with them, well, I got Tomb Kinged. As Mike asks, did I go to art school? Yes, I went to the American Academy of Art. That was downtown Chicago. Now, speaking of the blog, if you want to see what I did with 2D art before I ever started painting miniatures, because I was not a miniature painter until 2002, 2003. Go check out the blog. I have an entire section on just my 2D art. See, I wanted to get some of the reflection here of some of the purples into the armor again. I will be trying to do some 2D art here. Mostly some oil painting. probably some more dog portraits too. And then of course I did the dice bag. That was the wolf face painted in oils. That was another YouTube live session, so I'll probably be painting more dice bags on here, which means more 2D art, which is always good. Nothing wrong with some 2D art. I saw you were drawing it. Oh, who was that you were doing a stream and she was sketching out something, and I think and you were there was the two of you multi-streaming. That's the thing I'm looking for. And she was drawing. She was using the I don't know if it was a rapidograph pen or if it was just a straight up kind of a liner marker or something like that. But there was some 2D art going on with you two guys there. I remember that one. That was a little while ago. I think we actually got to see that on the large screen too. Oh, it was. I think it was the demons. Maybe, might have been the demons. Might have been those demons. Now we've had a lot of fun with this. Actually, let's make sure we get some of our greens into our, yeah, a little more. We got the yellow here. I'm gonna actually have to bring back some of my yellow if I'm gonna be playing around with that staff, because we want to mess with that too. As much as fun as it is to be playing around with this guy, we also want to mess with that staff a little bit. Also want to make this not be quite the same color as the snake. So again, out comes the transparent yellow. There we go. Get some more of that into here. There we go. That's what I needed. And see how it's transparent, so it's not an ink though, because well, inks are shiny. This will dry every bit as dull as all of the other as the regular colors do. Completely the same, no difference. I want to throw those out there so I can do a little bit of wet blending on them too. We did that early on with the big old nasty brush. We're doing a lot of wet blending on this guy. Oh, you do it every other week to keep the illustration going on the stream. Yeah, I definitely want to actually people think because there's the whole, oh, you're the Bob Ross of miniature painting. So people say, look, Jim, you've got to do a classic Bob Ross landscape. You know, with the happy mountains and the happy trees and the clouds and all that kind of stuff. The only thing I can't quite do it right now because, well, you just can't be getting the canvases or the art store stuff. You can't just walk into an art store and buy things quite right now. Maybe in a little bit that'll be different. But I really want to try it because I think that'll be fun. Again, we're reflecting this green over here. I have always, since I was a kid, wanted to do the whole painting the landscapes in oils. I mostly had to use acrylics because, well, they were cheaper and easier to get when I was, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years old. Well, we are already assuming that there will be no conventions at all this year. We've already kind of assumed that, that's kind of why I started the Twitch channel thing. Because this one's been going for, well, 2.5 hours. This is about as long as you dare go with a YouTube live. So that's why I started this because, well, I can just keep going. Oh, thanks. I really love, well, you know me, I try and sneak them into like portals or on bases, right? Oh, here we go. So this is as close as I get to 2D art for the most part these days. So here's another Sister of Battle base. This is for my Sisters of the Raven. There we go. So it's a 60 millimeter round base and a little mural on there. And this is, to me, that is my 2D art now. That's the extent of what I get to do with 2D art. But who knows? Maybe with Twitch here, if people want to see the 2D art, well, I can do that. I know some folks might get a little bit surprised if there's no miniature there. Now, see, this is where we're not just making the faces lighter, but look at this color here. This is the same thing I was just using to highlight the greens on the branches. that has now become a greenish flesh tone highlight. And we're going to use that right here. If a color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. So yeah, oh yeah, Mike, we're trying to come up with things for bits and for cheering. So many bits donated will get you a one of the Wappelisms, something from the Book of Wappel. Maybe, who knows, if I can get one of those Stream Deck things, I can have a hotkey for different passages from the Book of Wappel, depending on how many bits are cheered. What else? Oh yeah, we did something else where, uh, oh yeah, I have to paint with no thumb. So that's a certain amount of bits means that thumb-free painting, we devolve. We're counteracting evolution here by painting with no thumb. No thumb painting. Here, let's get a little bit different, even mixing without a thumb. It's still there, but we're just not going to use it. I'm just literally using these two fingers. And we're going to paint for a while with just those two fingers. Almost like it's chopsticks. Yeah, well, I never see with the YouTube lives. That's just not a part of it. It's pretty much I'm painting and there's a chat, and people say, "Yo, what's up?" or "Hey, can you do that again so I can see it?" Whatever, or "Hey, have you ever done this?" That's about it. But just as I'm seeing this, and well, seeing your guys doing your thing, I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot more interaction there than any kind of a YouTube live. It's kind of why I'm gravitating towards this. I'm still going to do the YouTube lives, but here I can do a longer format thing. There can be more. I could do stuff like the 2D art, and like on YouTube, you would sort of be penalized for that. They wouldn't like that very much because they want you to do one thing only on YouTube. That's it. But here, it's almost like well, people are rewarded for watching longer, and maybe you're rewarded for doing some different things. Yeah, it's definitely such a different format. I just thought it was kind of it was YouTube with some bells and whistles, and I'm realizing no, this is a whole different little animal right here. Whole different animal. Now again, I'm going to take some of that green, let it work its way down into here. However, not forgetting my sky blue color. We're not going to forget that. But we're also going to use our finger to blend. So you can see we have all kinds of different colors going on in here. Let's do our saturation thing once more. Go like so. Now all the color, all the purples and greens, those all go away. However, the shading does not. So you can still see all that. It's very developed in his face. But then when we come back with the color, boom. So much is happening here. So much going on. Now let's, for the heck of it here, let's just, let's play with this. People have been waiting a while. Here's our lovely transparent green. Because if we want this to maybe be something like jade, let's go with some cooler colors here, and then we'll go warmer where it gets towards the gold. We shall do that. And we're working fast again. Why faster? Because if I take this, mix it into this to make something a little lighter like this, then we come back here and oh look, remember those water-soluble oils we were talking about earlier? We done got water-soluble oils in the form of acrylics. Everybody's got these. We all got water-soluble oils. We probably have hundreds of water-soluble oils just sitting there on the shelf. Oh, Mythic Bristles asks, where can I get these minis from? You can get them direct from Mierce. Now, they may have improved their website recently, but just be ready for a website that looks like it was designed in the 1700s. Actually, maybe more like the 1500s. It can be difficult to figure out what the heck you're looking at. Maybe they've improved that a little bit, but each faction, they have a million factions. There's like a Viking type faction, there's a lizard faction, there's a dragon faction, there's a walrus faction, an octopus faction, the snake faction, there's a bird faction, and they might even have bears by now. And I am not joking. There's literally all these different factions. I have painted, again, check out the blog, look up Mierce Miniatures on the blog. You'll see a gigantic octopus. You'll see walruses. And there's more too. There's polar bears. And some of them are more, what would you say, more traditional, like beastmen. There's some sort of demon-y looking things too. But that is what I like about them the most. They have the exotic critters. And they have, like, say, the dragon faction. So they'll have kind of human-sized, for lack of a better term, dragons. Then they'll have dragons that are, I want to say, ogre-sized at least. And then there's bigger ones. And there's the big honking dragon, like I said, whose base fits on a DVD. Yeah, what's weird about their site is that they're trying to use like some kind of Nordic names, and they're like 12 letters long, 6 vowels in a row followed by 10 consonants, and it makes no rhyme or reason. There is no kind of translation for it. So you just have no idea. Well, I want to look up where the snake guys are. Well, if you don't know what they are, it's almost impossible to just locate them without just clicking on a bunch of stuff. Oh, I remember seeing the Wraith Lord ones. Oh yeah, those. I think I painted a couple of those for YouTube videos. Yeah, that one of them. I was painting like 3 of them at once. It was a Patreon video. I remember that. Those were pretty wild. That the hardest thing was that I had to use. It was another one of those things where I had to use someone else's color scheme. Quite literally, I had to follow someone else's color scheme. Now, did you see what I did there? The same greenish color here, that just got a tiniest bit of that yellow, transparent yellow there, added it in, and boom. All of a sudden, much warmer here. Look at this. Look at that, and we're going to reflect some of that onto the, remember we wanted these blades to maybe be somewhat golden. Now we're starting to think about some reflections here on the metal. Already starting to think about some reflections here. I'm going to get rid of some of the excess there. And I will show you in a second here. I do actually have some painting videos on the YouTube channel for jade. And it's hilarious because, well, at least to me, because Creature Caster makes a color called jade, which is, I love it. Everybody loves the jade color, except with the transparent paints and what I'm doing, I don't need the darn jade color anymore. I've kind of eliminated the need for it. So if I can find, aha. So think of, see how we got this working here? Very much the same sort of colors here. The yellows, mixing them in with the green. Very much that same sort of green that you see on the eye there. So again, that was another one of my, that's my Cypher Lords, part of my Patreon army painting series. All right, let's go. Even more with the green here. Now I have to start thinking about reflected light again, because even on jade, it's not stone, or it's not metal, even though it is kind of a, well, a gemstone. It still has to have some reflection, and that's what we're doing here. Some of our greens. I don't want to completely lose that bluish color either. But now let's go, let's get something that's closer to gold here. And that's how we're going to go in with some of the orange here, change that up a bit. There we go. Start to emphasize more of the gold there, some of the gold there, some of the gold there. Turn them around. And all of a sudden those little patches of green that we added there start to look more like reflected light instead of just what the heck are they doing there. And as soon as we start to add any bit of that lighter color, that opaque stuff to it, totally changes these around. Are there not a bazillion miniatures on that website? I mean, there may be more than a bazillion. Because each faction has so many figures kind of built into it. It's insane. It's freaking nuts. Here, let's go a little bit lighter on his staff there. Yeah, looking to do gold blades in there. I'm not quite sure why, but we've done... It would make him stand out from the other ones for sure. That's another reason why I was thinking of doing the gold here on this weapon. And it goes really nicely with the green. It's a nice complement to it. You know, he's already got so much steel with the armor. Why not go with something different here on this staff? Already starting to think again about reflected light. Do some more of that here. And here, then I'm going to have to work in some orange here. Oh, trying to find the octopus minis. The octopus, there's one giant one. I mean, he had a bazillion tentacles coming out of his face. And he's holding an anchor over his head. So if that's a little bit of an indicator of what you're looking for, look for the octopus with the anchor held up over his head, like a weapon. Yeah, let's get some more of this reflected green in some of these places. And then once we start to hit something like, say, the orange in there too, then we're going to get some purple into this, because there's nothing like purple in golds to make them look more like gold. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Yeah, I might just go with more of a traditional dagger color there, but we're also going to go with some warmer color here. I'm going to blend that in again with my hand a little bit here. So it's Mierce Miniatures. See that logo? Here, I'll put my hand there. It's Mierce Miniature spelled like that. It's got that little wolf with the crown. That's what you're looking for. And they're fun. They're fun miniatures. They're not the cheapest miniatures. Just be prepared for that. They are not the cheapest. Well, I mean, it's not like GW figures are cheap either. I guess, I don't know, maybe think of them as sort of Forge World-ish, maybe, as far as the pricing goes. And there is a game that goes with it. It's called Mierce Darklands, I think is the name of the game. The bases... Well, let me bring this back here. Yeah, see this line right here? There's 4 lines, because its facing matters. Oh, here, let's do this. We should see how this is looking next to his... So that's pretty much where his weapon's going to go, right there. There we go. I may also, just for shipping purposes, I may not actually glue that on. I may just blue tack it on. And now look at what our orange is going to do. Look at that. See how that changes this around? Look at this. Look at what that orange is going to do next to all that green. And then when we get the purple in there too, yeah, that really starts to change this around. Now it's going to start looking that much brighter. Here, let's get some of that orange going here. And because it's transparent, right? Transparent yellow, transparent orange. I've been calling this a dry glaze, for lack of a better term. Because it's a glaze, and this color is transparent. However, this is not a glaze. This ain't your dad's glaze, or whatever you want to call it. Not your father's glazing technique. Because it's not wet. It's just transparent. That is why I like the transparent. That's why they are not inks, because this is not a wash. And there's another fun thing. We add a little bit of that opaque stuff to it again. It makes it not just lighter, but it makes it more opaque. But it still keeps a little bit of that orangeness to it. See how we're starting to get a little, it's sky, earth, gold. I'm going to have to do, well, I kind of do that anyways with some of the non-metallic metal things that I do. Here, let's get some brighter stuff going there, and then in here, again, making sure I keep that orange somehow in there. Oh, thanks for typing that in. Yeah, I don't quite know an easier way to get the keyboard in a position where I can type things. Oh, look at that. Look at that nice orange there. Because there is no room for the keyboard here anywhere. This area is basically dedicated for filming YouTube videos. So that's why, here, I'm going to bring this a little closer so you can see it. 1 second here. Bang. There you go. We're going to bring up our brightness a bit. And I'm going to make sure we got some focus for you. And now we're going to go a little bit lighter. So yeah, just Mierce Miniatures, and like I said, it could be, well, not could be, it's going to be a confusing website if it's anything like it used to be the last time I looked. I basically just kind of gave up looking. Now, part of it was because there was a whole bunch of miniatures that I would have really liked to have. Now, I do have, I call it the Draconis faction. That's the dragon dudes. I was bequeathed some of those as a Christmas present, I think a couple years ago. So I'm going to be painting some of those guys here, because this is a better format than, say, it would have to be several YouTube sessions, at least 2 here. I could potentially just do one long 6-hour stream on a weekend day or something like that, or on a day where Kathy's not streaming. And I like that idea, because at first I thought, oh, I'll do them in parts on YouTube, in episode 1, episode 2, and then I realized, no, people, even I have a hard time finding when people do an episode 1 or 2 of anything. I end up watching episode 3 and then have a really hard time, for whatever reason, finding episode 1 or 5 or whatever. It is fun to just browse around on there. It's evil and tempting also. It is very evil and very tempting. Now let's start to get we can go into some brighter stuff here. So sometimes you need the strong willpower, I guess, if you're going to browse around on that site. You must have the force with you so that you don't get sucked in. And maybe, well, it's not like you would regret the purchases, but maybe buy some things that maybe not fit the projects you're working on at the time. Yeah, let's get some more of this. Let's get some more light stuff in here. I guess the next thing I've got to do is start putting those little things that talk about how many subs you've gotten or whatever, because I got the alerts. But what I need is something that shows. Oh, and thank you, we got that, Mike Disney's sub. But we'll just we'll do some kind of goals or something like that. I don't know, some kind of slider bar. I see those all the time. Now let's get, yeah, we need some of this lighter color up here too. What am I doing there? And the fun thing is, too, I can also just take the lighter color, put it over the top, and then hit it with, say, the yellow to do a glaze. I can do that, too. But see, as we find these little bit of highlights here, look at how that just... And here, look, we'll just take this color here. We're going to just blend it out almost like it's oils. There we go. A little bit of a blend. That's all it takes. And no fuss, no muss. Let's do a little bit of reflected light here. If we want these to be shiny gold, can't just be dark there. There we go. We will do the same over here, like you do. And I'm gonna actually have to get some more of this onto the snag. Again, I want that to be, that's gonna be jade. I actually have to keep thinking a cooler green. And you know what? I want to get here. I want to get some lighter. This part maybe in shadow, and this part gets lighter. But again, it's translucent. I'm going to do the same thing here. I add some more of this lighter color. And there we go. So now this is lighter, this is darker, and we've reversed it down here. We've just switched around where our lights and darks are hitting. So you can see how that is reflecting some of the green there, and it kind of wanders into our gold. We also want to do some of that down here too. Oh yeah, I'm going to keep going with that here. I still have to figure out, do I want this blade to also be gold? What the heck? I'll just play with some gold ideas there too. I'm just going to throw that on there as a notation for later. I think I'm going to do this. Yeah. Now this has to also transition into something less stark. Same here. I want some more orange. I've been doing a lot with the yellow. I need a little bit of orange, then we got to grab some purple. Crazy as that sounds, we will have to get some purple in here to really maintain that gold. Now the other thing too that we can do is actually chuck a little bit of the fluorescent paints in there, because that, we're going to throw that, it's about there, because look at how intense that is. It's so intense it just shows up as white on camera. And no, this is not to make things glow in the dark. It's all it does is just enhance the intensity of the color. It's not about glowing in the dark. We're just, wow. That already makes a big difference in the intensity of that. It's not any lighter, but boy is it more intense. Now there's also fluorescent orange. I've got that. I've got fluorescent green. For now, a lot of the object source lighting stuff that is on the YouTube channel, I will obviously be doing some of those here because, hey, I love object source lighting. In case the entire universe hasn't seen that already or noticed it. Have I done anything with glow-in-the-dark paints? Well, believe it or not, when you shine a UV light, well, I don't know if it's going to show or not, but here, let's take this guy, because this has the fluorescent paints on it, and here is a UV light. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera. Oh yeah, see that? Look at that. So at least if you shine the UV light on there, you'll get it. I haven't done anything with glow-in-the-dark paints because I don't have anything that would ever be in the dark. Unfortunately, like my Army of the Dead, I painted those with fluorescent paints, so if I shine that UV light on them, they will also glow in a similar way, but it will take the UV light to make that happen. Now I'm gonna throw some of this bright ivory out here because we haven't had any of this out here at all yet. This is the first time anything resembling white has been on the palette. Believe it or not, we've been doing this for almost 3 hours. This is the first time white has found its way onto the palette. Because, well, we want our golds to be shiny and some other factors that encourage the use of some of the white. Like along the side of this blade here, which still has some chips taken out of it. So we'll still have to deal with some of that kind of stuff. Yeah, well, I don't even know what got me to do. Oh, I would use that UV light to cure the Green Stuff World water, the resin water. And she was using some fluorescent paints on her figure that she was painting, and I said, here, let me just shine the flashlight on it. And at some point, you will see Kathy's figure with that UV light shining on it, and oh my gosh, it's almost as if she was painting it the entire time with that UV light in mind. So you'll have to see that when those pictures get done. That's going to be amazing. Let's see how that bright highlight, it's a chain of lights to go down here. Let's go on this side. There's a little less of it. And I'm also going to do my little trick where we kill the saturation here pretty soon, because then you can really see, because remember what this looked like before. Here, I'm going to get rid of this. Let's go with this one here. Gotta make sure you can see what I've got going on here. There, again, a broken chain of lights because, well, there's all these chips in it, like literally right here is a chip in it. There's a whole bunch down here. And we are going to throw a bit of a light on the edge of this too, just cause. Yeah, a little more. Oh, let's get these guys too. And now, top edge of this needs something. And this is the first time we've messed around with anything that resembles white, so it has a big impact. If we've been screwing around with white all this time, this would not have the impact that it is right now. Nowhere near that. So let's get our figure again and get him on screen. So that is what we're looking at. It's also the reason I chose the jade color and the golds is that it does sort of complement him. The purples and greens, they like each other. They play together really well, even though supposedly they are opposites on the color. I feel bad because I know that there's people that are all dedicated to the color wheel. They worship at the altar of the color wheel, and that makes me heretical because I absolutely despise the color wheel. I hated it in art school. I found it useless and confusing. And as soon as I stopped even thinking about it, painting got so much easier. Because I wasn't worried about what was opposite of this or that or whatever. I don't even care. All that matters is it warmer or is it cooler? And greens right here. I'm going to do this so you can see these two different greens. Let's just make two real quick here, and I'll get this closer so you can see it. All right, so two different greens. Just going to mix these up for you. All right. So I'll get that closer. These are green. A green is a cool color, right? Oh, thanks, Numbskull. I appreciate that. It just, that's why you got to save it to that kind of that last minute. Now, if we kill the saturation on this, I mean, these two basically disappear. They don't look any different. You bring back that color intensity. One is warmer, one is cooler. That is more important than any color wheel ever is going to be. That is so important because when we do something like this, now we've got a green that's darn near a blue. And when that goes next to all of these warmer colors, guess what? We get some Boku contrast going on. Contrast is not always light and dark. Sometimes contrast goes way beyond that. Well beyond that. And what we're going to do now, we're talking about reflecting things. We are reflecting onto the sword blade. We're starting to reflect these little guys onto that sword. Or staff, whatever it is. I don't quite know exactly what that should be, maybe, but I am going to start to bring some things out in the face here. Might even do some darker glazes too. Now let's go with that. Here's that white again. Let it mix with the green. And now we start doing the same thing we did on the gold, right? We're going to start doing that on our green here. Look at what that does. This now starts to look shiny. Now, of course, I could take like art coat or something, one of those type of glossy effect things, and put that over the top. I've done it for eyes and gemstones and for things like the saliva and mouths and that sort of thing. I've done that, so there's no problem with that. But it's kind of fun to just be able to paint it. And here this is even closer towards just the white. And I'll pick a few of these edges here, thinking of each of these almost like it's its own gemstone. Almost like it's its own gemstone. And then, let's flip it over. So that's what we had. There's shading there, yeah. But let's do this. Boom. There you go. Big old difference there. Now, let's go the other route. Look at what that fluorescent yellow does. Let's get some white in here. And shazam, oh my gosh, do we have quite the warm fluorescent green. And we're going to do that. So we did more of a bluish light on this side over here. Over here I'm going to do the opposite. This is where the warm comes in. Here is nice little light there. Let's get some of that here, even on some of the metal. This needs some brightness. We are going to hit that right now, just like we did on the other side. I may even go in there with some darks too to get some, just to clean up some things where I might have lost some of the lines there. No problem. No problem. I'm going to go even lighter. I'm going to get more of that fluorescent yellow in there, which actually turns sort of a green. Thanks for the thumbs up there at the bristles. And again, I do appreciate the sub, the donation. It's really, that goes a long way towards fluorescent oil. Oh, there we go. We'll have to have a fund for fluorescent oils. I can't say that 10 times fast right now, since it's now 5:11 in the morning. I somehow was thinking it was still only 4-something o'clock. Here, let's keep working our brighter yellow, and now we've got to reflect that. So let's go back a bit, not quite so light. Not quite so light. And then let's do our little reflection here into our gold. Like you do. Bam. Let's do that. It's a simple thing. I mean, how hard was that? To just, so you know what? There's these bright scales right next to something that's supposed to be shiny gold. Did it kill me to do this? A couple of things. So we'll get even closer so you can see it. That was not hard, but it's worth it. It is definitely worth it. Now we also have, look at this. We got that orange over here, right? Look what happens when I take some of that basically fluorescent green and put on the other side. Oh, we have a follow. Here, let me get my thing up here. Thank you for the follows, Chimerian. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It is appreciated. Here, let's get some. Oh yeah, I'm really loving I just can't get enough of the fluorescent stuff. I absolutely love it. So here, let's bring back that Cypher Lord guy, wherever he is. Where did you go? Ah, there you are. So we used some of the fluorescence in here too. Not so much to make them glow in the dark, but you can see a very similar thing here. You see the cooler bluish greens and then the warmer greens. It's all the same thing. The same principle. You get the look at the same kind of set of colors. Two very different guys, but the same idea. That same concept. I've got some Rubik Marines that were kindly donated. Oh, thanks, Seb. Sorry if well, I think if I was more awake, then I'd be a little more able to suss out more pronunciations. But I am gonna, oh yeah, I want to get that fluorescent green right there. But what I want to do is take the fluorescent blue and really go like wild with the fluorescent stuff. Now, here we're going to do something different. We're going to make a green that is even cooler green here, because why not? Even cooler green. It still is green. It is not blue per se. It's kind of a teal. And let's go. Now that's the least interesting possible angle for this little staff right here. But I need to get a few things with that cooler jade color. I'm going to put some of that up here, some of that here. So it's darker, it's cooler. There we go. There we go. Now I can even make a somewhat lighter version of that. And let's see what we can do here to almost put another series of kind of reflected light, some reflected light action going on here. There we go. That's good. It's sort of the same kind of linear highlights, linear lights and darks that we did on the armor. And I will try and show that to you in a second. Compare them side by side. Now let's get the slightly lighter, like this, and then it sort of dies away. We'll do that here. Now, where's the section on him? So that's the section I'm talking about. Look at that right there. So we're trying to do the same thing here along this. Trying to do the same thing that we did there. Now, let's see what we've got going on. His hand is going to be right about there. So not looking too shabby. And this thing 3 hours ago, both of these things were just, well, they looked like this. They were this color, basically off-white primer. And this is probably another going to be a Twitch thing here. This is from Big Child Creatives. So we'll be working on that. We're going to be working on an awful lot of things. Don't be surprised if there are some really long 5-6 hour streams or something like that. It's basically just me working. But instead of me just kind of working, well, if I was going to be watching something, I would actually be watching terrain making videos. I did actually get to see about 20 minutes of a terrain making video earlier, well, yesterday now. It's not today anymore. It's tomorrow. But that is my guilty pleasure that I like to do is actually terrain videos, because terrain is a big deal for me. I love making terrain, and I love using terrain when I play games. Right now I'm doing a lot of Lord of the Rings themed terrain, but, well, you check out the blog, there is also bolt action, tons of bolt action terrain there. Here I'm going to also try and make that same little, there we go. Another little chain of lights that happen. Almost like Christmas lights. Maybe not quite, but sort of like that. Same thing here. Just, yeah, right along that edge. Maybe enhance my little reflections there, but see how these are more cool and those are more warm. That is the key thing. Forget that color wheel. It just confuses the heck out of people. It irritates me when I see people just kind of held hostage by it. Oh, Chimerians, fittingly enough, I'm prepping a terrain piece for undercoat while watching. The circle is complete. Yeah, I've got some smaller, I guess more like scattered terrain pieces that actually will fit under this, so I can actually paint them in a session like this. And then I've got my monstrous terrain pieces. We're talking about towers that are about 2.5 feet tall, and some of them at the base are a good 2 feet wide at the base. There's my rivers that I love doing my rivers, and I've got to do more of those, especially if I'm going to have Asclepius, and I've got to do the River Anduin, the River Eisen. So for Fords of Eisen, right, I'm going to have that. So I did there just a little hint of green there again. Yes, it's gold, but it needs to reflect all of this green that's around here. I also have to start thinking about something like this. So I put those there. Now, remember we did like with the gold with the white. We are going to do something along the lines of this and this. So see these broken chain of lights that now when you see them like this, it starts to give this more of a clear gemstone sort of appearance, right? How's about some more of the brightest light here and see where we can stick that on our jade snake here. That's pretty fun. Let's get a couple of right. Look at what that does. It's just a little tiny hint of a highlight there. Develops that. Remember what this looked like? I know I've said it a million times already. Go back to the beginning. Go back to the very first little glaze that we did on this, where it was quite literally just a bunch of green and some yellow, and we just slapped it on there. Just quite literally slopped it on there, and then just left it to dry and do its own thing. But that early slopping on a color, what did that do? It basically created a roadmap for me. I didn't have to try and guess or agonize over what color went where. The figure will tell you where the colors are supposed to go. You just got to listen to it. Ooh, now that's the phrase that pays. That's got to go on a t-shirt. I don't know. I guess apparently with Twitch they will make t-shirts for you that have whatever you want on them, and they print them and ship them or something like that. So we'll definitely, I don't know, we got to start doing Book of Wappel t-shirts. Oh yeah, let's get a couple of these. Yeah, there we go. Some bright highlights there. Let us do that there. And now back to some orange. Let's add some of this fluorescent yellow to our orange and make our orange even more juicy. Like that. Yep. It's not really lighter. Oh, thank you very much for the follow, the dog father. I appreciate it. So now you think that the transparent yellow like this is transparent. Well, then you're really getting into transparent with this. Now, as bright as this is, look at what that does. And you've got, boom, fluorescent orange. We'll compare that to, look at that. It looks almost brown. Look at how it kind of drives the camera nuts. Look at that. That is how intensely bright the fluorescent paints are. Oh, thank you for the follow, for Tutu. It's appreciated. Oh, where do we go here? We set aside our golds. Let's do, oh yeah, look at that. This is why people say, well, how do you make your golds stand out a little bit brighter? Use the fluorescent paint. And I can tell you now, also say something like the fluorescent magenta in there is very nice. My Lizardman Blood Bowl team, I was mixing magenta in the golds, magenta in their skin tones. There's magenta everywhere. That was fluorescent magenta. It sounds crazy, but believe me, it works. So here I just reversed it. There was green, my reflection. I went down to orange. Now I'm gonna get some orange on the tops of these two and down here. So look at how we're spreading that orange around, we're spreading the greens around. Now the thing is, as soon as I try to add some of this off-white, it's gonna try and turn pink on me. That's where the yellow comes in. Keeps that from turning pink, but it does let me lighten it up a little bit. There. So again, when I did I was a YouTube live session, and I've done a couple of these, where I'm painting black, and I'm using absolutely no black. And it drives people nuts because they say, well, that's just a dark blue, a dark greenish gray, dark bluish gray. To which I say, exactly, that's what it's supposed to be. If you're wearing a black shirt or a black hat or something like that, and you're standing under fluorescent light, it's going to be different than if you were under an incandescent light or in sunlight or in some other light that has a color to it. So black is not black. Black is whatever color you are standing under. It's just, that's how it goes. Now the staff, I'm not quite sure if I want to go more of just a regular sort of a brown or whatever. Here, I'm going to just take the red and the black, see what we come up with, just whatever. Don't really care. Another thing that drives people absolutely nuts is they'll just go, yeah, let's just try this. Who cares? Yep, it needs that little bit of differential there. That's good. I do need some more water, though, wherever that went. There. There it is. There's my little, whatever color that is, don't care. Not worried about it. You know, I'm even going to use a bigger brush here, too, to get that going a little bit faster. Actually, I'm going to get the hand as well because the hand needs to match the colors that we did. Oh, here we go. I'm going to go again. Black with some of the red. Touch the orange. Just something that's a little different than what's already on here. There we go. It sort of also brings the color of the snake into this, which I can bring up in a second here again. Around here. And I don't necessarily want this to also be shiny. We got so much shiny going on here. We need somewhere for the eye to just take a break. There's shiny everywhere. Let's grab our snake over here. And there we go. Yeah. Got it all in the picture for you. Oh, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Now, let's see. What is your normal when computer things are going, everybody's computers are working and everything's cool? When is your normal stream times? Like for me, I don't really have any. They just kind of happen when they happen. And I know that can be frustrating for people because they want to know, well, what time, what I need to set aside time for it. And my schedule is too crazy to be able to say, I will be streaming at this time, I promise. I can tell you the general time frame, sort of. Tuesday through Friday, do some weekends as well. Now, at some future stage, when they create a 73-hour workday, I can try and dedicate some of that to figuring out Discord so that we can do some kind of multi-stream thing. Because I know Drax was doing that. He was doing his stream and he was talking to somebody else during his stream, I think. And I think Thunderdome was doing that too, if I remember right. So that could be fun to have a multi-stream thing going on. I think I also will maybe have some moderator folks too, so that I don't miss things. I think the only Discord thing I've done so far was it was for on the table game. It was an interview, and when he created the Discord group for us, he forgot to make it private. So just as he's about to record the interview, like 30 people said, "Hey, Chase, what's going on?" That didn't work so well. So we had to kill that and start another one right away. So yeah, and just again, really quickly here. This is almost pink, but it's different. Look at this. Okay, we want stuff to look more green. How do you make it look more green? You put something that's a little more red next to it. By default, your green becomes more green, right? Fooling around thinking about a color wheel thing and holding that up there and trying to match it and stuff will drive you nuts. Drive me nuts, and I'm already nuts. Just think long, think wrong. Just look, red's the opposite. We all know red and green are opposites. That's not rocket science. If it was, I wouldn't be doing it. And that little touch of red right there, then it's not red. It's kind of, well, we're almost at the palette sludge stage. That's like a that's like a color. A palette sludge is an actual color. It's basically whatever sludge is sitting around here that kind of looks like it could be useful. Yes, palette sludge is a color. I was, well, I guess I got the idea for the name from, I think it's called Starship Filth. It's one of the MIG ammo oil brusher colors. Not joking. That's one of the colors. I am not joking. Oh, you know what? What the heck? I'm going to change. I say things are subject to change. We're going to change right here. We're changing our minds on this. Hey, palette sludge it's a thing, baby. You got to have your palette sludge. Now I'm going to go and mix myself some more of these kind of almost sky blue type colors here, with the intent of trying to make my golds look a little bit different now, and it also ties it to the rest of the figure. Now I'm going to get some more of my, yeah, let's go get some of that. That's the bright ivory again. There we go. Again, mix it with the transparent blue just to create a little bit of sky color here. Here we go. So we're back down here. And I can actually show you what I'm after because I've got it right here. This is, I think this was my last stream before this. So see that scallop blade there? We did this bust, what was that, a couple days ago? So we're trying to do the exact same thing we did here on this. Let's put that away. Yeah, once I saw, well, we called it palette sludge back in art school, but seeing the Starship Filth name, it kind of brought it back to me again. And I said, oh, I gotta have my own color of palette sludge. So let us do the same thing here. And remember, I can always go back to the smaller brush if I feel the need for it. There. And then I've got my much brighter color that can go along the edge of this blade here, and then start to, again, just finding that chain of highlights here, which with the undulation on this right there, also going to have to reflect some of the ground too. That's just how it is. Again, you want to do the non-metallic stuff. It's all about reflection, reflection, reflection. It's reflecting everything. And remember, this is supposed to be the shinier metal, not like the armor that we did on the snake itself. That is supposed to be more of a steel type of thing. I like this dark color here. I'm gonna get some of this onto my golds because why not? And it's sort of a bluish black. Because if you want to have dark, you must have light, and vice versa. And we're going to put that right here. Right there. So now that I can't make this any lighter. So I'll never forget one of the very first, it was one of the first classes that we did it at Adepticon. It was a non-metallic metal class. And I could just tell there was a look on somebody's face. And it was, clean up on aisle 7. Why not walk over there? And he says, man, I'm putting white on here. I can't get it any lighter. And I said, oh, you know what? Just let me grab this for a second, and I'll show you something. And he says, oh, yeah, sure. And I took his thing. Imagine he's trying to put more and more white here. Nothing's happening. And I just put one stroke of darker color there. And he said, okay. And that solved all of his non-metallic, well, some, at least, a good portion of his non-metallic metal problems that he was having, because he just didn't realize that you can only add so much dark or light to something, and vice versa. You can only add so much dark to something before you got to add something that's lighter. And that's what we're doing here. We're enhancing that highlight up there. No, Mythical Bristles has to head off. Thanks again. Well, thanks again for everything. I appreciate the subscription and the donation. I appreciate that. That means a lot. I'll catch you tomorrow. Well, later today. Later today I will catch you. There. See what difference that makes. It's a very small little thing. But I can't make that highlight any brighter. But I can make the shadow color near it. I can certainly make that darker. Look at this here. That's almost like a bit of a horizon line in there. Maybe those are trees. Maybe that's something going on in that horizon line. I'm just going to get me something to drink here real quick. I apologize for that. But my voice only lasts so long before it starts to get all gravelly and messed up. I'm going to get me some more of this cooler green in here. And I think, remember we talked about darker greens. I'm going to get some, yeah, right there. That little bit, look at how it makes that look, it just makes it look lighter by default. It's the same thing, that's why we focused here on our, look at that, again, a chain of highlights. Lights there, it all makes that part of the surface come more towards you. But that's what I need, is some of that Jägermeister. That's what I need with me for every, well, that would be stream sauce. That's what it would be. The Jägermeister would have to be the stream sauce. Let's go back to this fluorescent green here. Actually, that's the last time I had it, was at Adepticon. It was last year, where you tried to restore my voice, which was gone by Thursday morning. And you gave me some of that. And actually, I enjoyed the taste of it. And I sounded great for about 30 seconds, right? And then the Jägermeister went away. Or the effect went away. Oh, thank you for the follow, War Art. I appreciate it. And then, but you guys all said, no, you don't get more Jägermeister. Because you'll be teaching the class on the floor. Yeah, that was why because people were saying, well, Jim, why were you going to be doing the classes at Adepticon again? I said, to save my voice. Because here, well, I've been talking for 3.5 hours nonstop. Stream so yeah, that's what we call Kathy's. Well, I think it's her favorite is gin and tonic, but because of circumstances, everybody thinks that tonic water has magical properties, so you can't get it anywhere. But that's her stream sauce, and I don't know, mine might just have to be the Jaeger. It might just have to be. Well, it'll certainly not take a whole bunch of it. It's it'll definitely open up some pores. That's for sure. Yeah, let's get again the touch of the brighter greens in here again. So we kind of went with the darks, then went with the mid-tones. Yeah, it might not take very much to restore some silkiness to the voice. It'll make the dulcet tones that much more dulcet, if there actually ever were dulcet in the first place. I'd be curious to see what effect that would have with like the voice at normal. Like would it just be deeper? Would it sound even? Could I actually start doing like Pavarotti or something like that, or Bocelli or whatever? Could that be the magical effect of the Jaeger on the voice? Except I will not attempt concerts on the Twitch streams. It's the darndest thing. I am the youngest of 7 kids, and the other 6 kids, not only did they play multiple musical instruments, and by multiple I mean like 8, 7, some 18 or 20. Some of them wrote symphonies in other languages, and I could not play music. I couldn't read music, and I could not play an instrument. And my siblings played, like I said, multiple instruments. I spent most of my childhood just assuming that I was adopted or something. But the darndest thing is, the number of Wappel kids that do 2D art, or, well, anything like this, is 1, just me. None of the others do this. Now, my sister, she has done 2D art in the past, and she even went to the Art Institute also, right across the street from where I went to the academy. But for whatever, I could see the music. I actually did, back in the days before computers, I actually helped my brother make copies of his orchestra score, and I could draw it like it was a picture. I could see the notes as pictures. But if you had told me what they were, high C's, B flats, and all this kind of stuff, I'm lost. You lost me. So that was the weird thing, is that all the other siblings played multiple instruments, wrote symphonies, blah blah blah, but not me. I am the youngest by a lot, actually. The next closest sibling to me is 8 years older than me. I was a surprise package, for sure. There we go. Now it's my brother up in Alaska. He makes these unbelievable picture frames out of wood, where the frame itself is a piece of art. You almost feel bad about putting something in the frame to take away from the frame, because we're talking wood inlays. We're talking the direction of the texture of the wood itself. So he's a master of that. That's his art. That's what he did. Now see, I just sharpened that up there. Look at that. This is that darker. Look at it. It's like a dark reddish orange, as through that one little blob right there, and it sharpened that whole thing up. Now over here, oh, I see what I got to do. Yes. Well, we're doing that up here. I'm gonna do this down here with the orange, dark orange here. There. How's about some of that? Oh my goodness, there's chips here in my gold. Why do I have to do that? But they're there, so we'll try and get those going. I wish they weren't there, but they're there. I could have well, maybe tried to file those away, but it would have filed away half of the weapon, so that wasn't going to happen. So again, we're going to do some more of our chips here, getting chippy. Did we get those up there? Yeah. Now, very quickly we'll see what we got going with these two together. Get them on the screen. Boom. There we go. Look at that. We got purples there. We got greens. We got golds. And then you see why we went with the just this one thing to have more of the bluish metals. So here, different metals here with the pinks and stuff. But all of those colors you can, oh, look at this, you can even find here, and I haven't even really done much with this. You can see some of the same greens and oranges. Oh, what the heck. Let's just pop a few of those real quick down here while we've got them. Like you do. There. Again, we're back to the big old brush. Getting some orange here into our, oh, whatever the heck these are, the vines, the roots, whatever. So these were sculpted with epoxy sculpt. The base, this part was the Sculpey clay. We can go back to the beginning again and see what that looked like when it just was nothing but primer. This whole thing, like I said, nothing but primer. That's all it was when this started. And this is what I was hoping to do with these longer Twitch streams, because now we're at 3.5 hours full. I wouldn't dare do a YouTube live this long. There would just be nobody watching. We thought that Twitch would work this way. I had no idea till I tried it, and fortunately this is telling me, yeah, go ahead and do those super long streams. Well, heck, I know somebody that Kathy watches just did like a 24-hour stream or something. I suppose you could, I guess you could do that on YouTube, but I think we'll save that for here. Not that I'm fixing on doing a 24-hour stream. Well, I guess I'm 1/7 of the way there. Well, not really. I'm 1/8 of the way there, something along those lines. Again, that's a little sneaky snake there that I made out of green stuff that was about to expire. I had rolled out a little too much, as sometimes we do. And I always make myself some little snakes like that because you could always use them on a base somewhere. They're always, I know my Wild West Exodus miniatures, I had tons of snakes on those bases. They just really gave them, well, a Wild West feel, that's for sure. So see what that did there? Again, it's a lot of the same colors that I was starting to use in here on this guy.